mixed up, but anyway. I am here to discuss property concerns about the zoning basis and issues here. It's, I think that's, if I'm correct for that, is it letter D?
It's
If
12A. Action item.
Is it A?
12A.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And I would like to present some of my concerns, or could be our concerns. Because there's several of us here that are representing this particular item. I'd like to ask if this plan that has come up, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can say anything. But anyway, it's supposed to be, they applied for houses to be built, from what I understand at one time. And now it's changed to apartments or duplexes or something like that. So anyway, my concern is if these are compatible to what we have now. We feel like it's incompatible with the surrounding area. That's one of our concerns. And another concern is what the density that's going to be brought upon building such. Can the water and wastewater handle the additional impact load? Has it been studied? Is service incompatible, or is it compatible to what is being proposed? Have you replated or zoned this area for such? And is the zoning going to meet family, or wasn't this going to be single or family related, these apartments, or how many per apartments, or whatever the duplexes that have come up now, instead of houses that was initially the person that bought this property. My understanding is that they were going to build houses versus duplexes. And that seems to be our concern. So that is my presentation as far as what is fixing to take place, or we're concerned about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Secretary, any other public comments?
We have Debbie McCoy, Ward 3, speaking on item 12A.
Okay, Debbie, come on up. Be sure to state your name, your ward, and you'll have 3 minutes. Remember, council cannot respond.
Okay, my name is Debbie McCoy in Ward 3. My concern is that area that we're discussing that is being looked at for duplex housing. About 4 or 5 years ago, we were here once before when an apartment complex or companies tried to come in and do the same thing. Luckily, that did not happen. Luckily for us, it didn't happen. I don't think we're taking into consideration where it is. The traffic alone on that street, it gets a little heavy just because of people taking their kids to school, which is on Brown Street. Coming around 14th, around the turn, going down Brown to the school. The traffic is very heavy around, I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock. I leave at 6:45 every morning, so luckily I don't see it. But that is an issue. We've got the potholes. I'm thinking the city should not be so concerned with going into real estate development as maybe taking care of what we already have. I don't know. my truck is ready for another alignment. I just had one done 6 months. Don't have to take it up to Fort Stockton to do it. And it's already starting to veer. And that's from hitting potholes, trying to dodge them, but you can't really dodge them a lot of times because oncoming traffic. That I don't see where it's that important to put in a high density development, and duplexes will be high density. Because there's gonna be just way too many people there. That would be fine. You can put some single family homes there, which is what the my neighbor was had mentioned. We thought that's what was going in. Single family dwellings would be fine. You wouldn't have the traffic. There is all kinds of other issues. I don't know, I guess I could go on forever and ever about it. There's from what I understand, with the alleyway, if the city's able to purchase that, then you guys would have, and now correct me if I'm wrong, you would have free reign to do pretty much whatever you want. Go ahead with whatever plans you have. But I don't think that would be a good idea to purchase that alleyway, mostly because that's what I'm looking at. I don't want to see high density. I don't want to see high density housing there. It's gonna cause problems all the way around. Our water pressure is a little bit lower than what it used to be. We now have the streets tore up, putting up telephone poles and electrical lines. We're gonna probably see that again on the other side of Brown Street. 14th Street is a mess. Now they're gonna be 16th Street will be tore up now too. We'll have to be
Okay.
bringing in lines.
Was that
and
time?
everything
Yeah,
else.
no,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No
I
problem.
didn't mean to go over.
That's okay. Do we have any other public comments?
yes, we have quite a few. Next up, we have Allison Santucci, Ward 3, speaking on item 12A.
Okay. Just come up, state your name, ward, and remember council cannot respond.
My name is Allison Santucci. I live in Ward 3 on 16th Street, right across from this property. And obviously I have some concerns. Unfortunately, I don't have enough information to make much of a statement at this time. I really like to know more. However, from what I understand here, this is about the sale of these unimproved streets that aren't there. In other words, there are these sections that are streets but not streets. And the sale of those streets would then allow the development of this property, perhaps. Cutting it off from the back property, though, from what I can understand. So obviously, we have a lot of concerns. If you live in that area, I'm concerned about what kind of construction is going to go on, how long it will take, what it will do to the neighborhood. Obviously, we've invested, in buying property in that area. So this is a prime concern to all of us. And it's a residential area. It's not a lot of apartment buildings or so forth. So that's been a concern of, it's been a concern of, the residents that we don't have that kind of activity over there, but we do have, an issue with the possibility of increased traffic and then what will happen to the streets. So I'm obviously concerned about this. I don't have, again, enough information to make a statement or make an argument against.
Please remain quiet in council chambers. If you need to go outside, please feel free to do so.
I don't have enough information to make an argument about any specifics because we don't have specifics. So at this point, I'm inclined to be against the sale or an ordinance that would allow the sale of those undeveloped streets or whatever they are there over there. At one point, I know I wanted to buy a lot in that area just because I wanted to keep it open and not build on it. But apparently that wasn't available, or the person I contacted said it wouldn't be a good idea. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot to say without more information. Would it be, or is it possible to make any comments after the individuals seeking this purchase could outline to us what they're planning to do in our neighborhood? Is
I
that-
imagine we would probably have them on the agenda at some point to speak. So
Okay,
it's a possibility.
so yeah, because that would make a lot more sense to me. Thank you very much, though.
Okay, city secretary.
Next up, we have Lance Johnson, Ward 2, discussing item 12A.
Lance, name, ward.
Hi.
Remember, council can't respond.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lance Johnson. I believe I'm on Ward 2. Kind of confused about where we cross over on 16th Street. I'm not going to rehash what their concerns are regarding the volume. I think we all share that we're concerned about an increased severe volume of homes and water supply that's going to be necessary to supply 21 duplexes, 44 toilets, 21 bathtubs, however many other people who are going to be there. My concern is that this is pretty broad. It doesn't describe what is being sold and why. It looks like we're going to be getting rid of the 15th Street egress that's going to be necessary for the lots that are on the east side of that property up against the railroad tracks. Since the 14th Street is now blocked because of the duplexes that have gone in on that corner, Brown, I believe it's Brown and 14th. So there's no egress for those lots behind it. I would love to have some new neighbors. If there are six or eight houses built in there, that would be terrific. But if we're looking at 20 duplexes or 20 units, I think that's a lot for the volume of traffic, especially that goes on 16th Street to the school. There's an inordinate number of cars that go through there in the morning. But anyway, that's my only concern. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pretty short.
Okay, city secretary,
We have Jean Larimore, Ward 3, discussing unemployment.
just name, ward, and remember, we can't respond.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jean Larimore. I live on 14th Street, which is in third district. I mean, in the third ward. And my main concern, and the first thing I'd like to address, I know you cannot answer anything like right now, but I would like to express my concern about the possibility of making an ordinance, the city making an ordinance saying that they have to notify the neighbors in the surrounding areas that are going to be affected by any sale that the city owns this particular property, that they notify the neighborhoods and in advance, so that we don't have last minute like literally today freaking out, finding out that this is up, the alleyways are up for sale. And we were not notified because it's not a legal requisition for you to do so. I would like to, however, express my concerns that both that we get ordinances in line, that the neighborhoods be advised by mail or by phone or by emails or however you prefer, to let the neighborhood know what's going to happen and what's going to be up for sale in its entirety. And then also have an ordinance put into place about the possibility of annexing places that people get annexed and don't even know that they've been annexed. There's no ordinance in place for that. They're not legally, the city is not legally bound to tell the people who own that land that they're being annexed into the city. So that's two of the things that bothers me. The main thing that bothers me right now on this is what type of, and excuse me for the glasses, I would like to know mainly, has there been a crime impact study done? If there's this number of people that are going to be coming in, has there been an environmental impact study done? What we have deer by the thousands over there coming and going all the time, and they practically live in our front yards. What is this going to do to our environment? Also, the traffic, which everyone does talk about, the railroad trellis is right there, and it's been hit several times, not just on the I-90, the 90 side, but on our side as well by dump trucks trying to go into that railroad trellis. What damage has that done to that trellis? Has anyone checked it? I don't know. That's something that we really honestly need to look into. What kind of environmental impact is this going to have on our neighborhood simply as a whole? We have to look at it in such a way that, is it going to affect our crime rate? our law enforcement at this particular time is very small. So if we seriously sit,
Jean, your time's up. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, City Secretary?
We have James and Deborah Spriggs, Ward 3, discussing item 12A.
Please be sure to state your name and ward, and remember, council cannot respond. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name's James Spriggs of Fairleigh Ward 3. I've lived out there since 1975, and with the advent of the middle school, which we need the schools and things like this, but the traffic is getting completely ridiculous at times out there. The speed, like 14th Street has been crap forever. You just can't hardly get down it half the time. And we need a whole lot more attention to what's there right now and more information about what's going on, because we really don't need that much added to the traffic in that area. I donated the streets in my area so they could open up what they could to the middle school. And there's still a block of it that's never been touched on it. They told me they'd pay everything that I donated. And I think it's time we got some representation on what the thunder's going on. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. City Secretary?
Would Deborah Spriggs like also to make the comment or? No, okay. So next up, we have Raul Rodriguez, Ward 3, discussing, I believe it's item 12A, but I'm not too sure.
Come on up to the podium. Be sure- Okay. Okay, thank you. All right,
Alrighty. Okay, so we have Brenda Rodriguez.
I have the same, I have nothing to say, they've said everything that we want to say.
okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you.
Do you want me to record your opposition to the item in the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. David Payanes, Ward 3, item 12A.
The same thing with me, but the only thing is, I wanna hear what their agenda is. I really wanna hear their plans before I make my comment. That's,
Thank you.
Eloisa Espinosa, Ward 3, item 12A. Okay.
Okay.
And last up, we have Jerry Davis, Ward 4, discussing item 11A.
Jerry, be sure to state your name, ward, 3 minutes, council can't respond.
Jerry Davis, Ward 4. What else did I need? That was it?
That's it.
Okay. I just wanted to discuss Mountain Country Christmas event. We are not favored by city council in any way, shape, or form. We fill out applications every 2 years. We come before city council to see if we get it. So it's no, we're not. And I have my application, if I can turn it into you now. Okay, we do this every 2 years. Oh, I'm sorry, Women's Club of Alpine. And I am the president of it. And I think that's all I have to say. And next month, discussion who gets it, or
So
When does it
during
end?
information and discussion items, the council will have a discussion with the city manager regarding the process.
Right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Jerry. All right,
That concludes public comments this evening.
we're gonna move into public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening. Public hearings open at 5:51 PM, City Secretary. The public hearing is to obtain citizen views and comments regarding special use permit 2025-01-01, a special use permit application allowing the applicant Dollar General number 24666 to obtain a wine and malt beverage retail dealer's off-premise permit for the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. The subject property is located at 1911 North State Highway 118. The property owner of record is LMDG ALPINE LLC. The parcel ID of the subject property is 21863. The current zoning designation of the subject property is C2 Business District. If approved, the zoning will remain C2 Business District. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this public hearing item?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You will have 3 minutes, Catherine. Council cannot respond to you. Your time begins now.
Hi, yes. My name is Catherine Chambly. I am located in Austin, Texas at 511 West 7th Street. Represent actually the applicant, Dolgen Corp of Texas, Inc. I'm not sure if staff let you know that I would be present via web today. But I'm here for any questions y'all might have, as is Lorena, who is one of the operational managers on the ground there for Dollar General. I just want to say that I appreciate y'all taking the time to consider this application here today. And again, I'm here for any questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. All right, public hearings close at 5:53 p.m. City Secretary.
Thank you.
Okay, public presentations. There are no presentations or recognitions, no proclamations, no community, well, there are community interest items. So moving on, City Secretary, give each individual 1 minute on the clock, please. And we're going to start with mayor announcements. I wanted to let everybody know we've been advertising it on, we being the Alpine Community Projects, not the city of Alpine, on the radio and in the newspaper, that there is an event coming up, a symposium on the 17th and 18th at the Granada on how to help Alpine flourish economically and in all other manners. So this event, there will be a author, Doug Griffith, that will come out, and he's presenting 13 ways to kill your community, which is a good book that you can get at Front Street Books. The next day, the next morning, there's going to be a morning event where community members can get together. You don't have to be a business owner, and discuss what their ideas are on how to help Alpine flourish. So that's January 17th and 18th, and you need to go and register. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Kirsten Moody at Alpine Community Projects. Her information is on the Alpine Community Projects website, or you can reach out to me at my mayor email, and I'll be happy to give you that information so that you can register. All right, City Manager, you have 1 minute.
I don't need a minute. I was just gonna say the same thing, 17th and 18th. If the community would like to participate, please sign up and register, and we're excited for this summer.
Great, thank you. All right, Councilmember Stevens, 1 minute. Okay, Councilmember Escobedo, Councilmember Nance, Councilmember Martinez.
No comments.
Councilmember Stone.
Gonna say thanks for everybody showing up. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so that moves to changes to posted agenda. Are there any items to be continued or withdrawn, council? Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion, council? Are there any action items to be added to the consent agenda, council? Are there any time-sensitive items, council? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, City Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's consent agenda contains 4 items. Item A is approval of the December 3rd, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Item B, approval of the excused absence of Mayor Eves from the December 3rd, 2024 regular city council meeting. Item C, approval of the excused absence of Councilor Reagan Stone from the December 3rd, 2024 regular city council meeting. And item D, approved payment of November 2024 monthly billing summary for Vahorkis Law Firm Services.
I need a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I need a second. Let's vote. Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, council voted unanimously to approve the consent agenda as is. Okay, there were no items removed from the consent agenda. Now we're moving on to reports and presentations. Remember, those of you given a report, you have 6 minutes each to give your presentation. Okay, City Manager, item A.
Thank you, Mayor. The first report presentation is going to be provided by Rusty Moore. He's here representing the Alpine Emergency Services Board with a brief update of really where you're currently at and how things are going.
Thank you for being here.
Great, Megan, thank you. Council members, Mayor, it's a pleasure to be here. Again, my name is Rusty Moore. I'm the newly elected chair of the Alpine Emergency Services Board. Certainly a board I'm very proud to be a part of. Would not have been my comments in 2023, I can assure you. I wondered what I've got myself into. We've made an enormous amount of progress, phenomenal leadership. And certainly on behalf of the board, I express our gratitude towards the additional contributions made by the city as well as the county. One thing we're quite focused on is transparency and accountability. And that will be proven time and time again at anyone's request, frankly. Very proud of our leadership with our fire chief. He's doing a phenomenal job building a great team. We are very focused on training. And he is very, very bullish on that to make sure that the members of that team are trained appropriately, and the contributions by both city and county support that. And it's going to be a very, very sound investment. December 19th, we did approve the budget. We also brought in a new director, which I'm very thrilled to work with. I think it is waiting on approval by the commissioners, which should be coming up soon, but he is going to bring a great deal of experience to the board as well. He was actually general manager of Bluebonnet Utilities, Bluebonnet Rural Electric in Bastrop when Bastrop had that horrendous fire a number of years ago. And so he has a great deal of experience and will bring a lot to the board. I don't have, a lot of comments. I mainly just wanted to be, just kind of an update of where we are. The budget has been approved. I believe the last roster, we had 28 firefighters on the roster. I believe we have some in training as well. But really just wanted to be here to answer any questions you might have or anything that we can present going forward. We just want to make sure that the city knows it's made a very sound investment in a very, very important group in our community. One that just has not seen really what it needed to have the tools available or the backing, the support, the training. And we're very proud to have this as part of our community, and they're all in. They're very supportive. And it's an important spoke in the wheel as we look at improving whatever our infrastructure is. That is a key component of anything that we're doing here now. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to field anything you may have.
Councilmember Stone?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Rusty, for your service. Thanks for being here tonight. If you know anything about me, I'm all about communication to our constituents. For the full room, we don't normally get this. Do you mind just giving like the shortest minute synopsis of what y'all do, what you are, and if you have time, that transformation that you've seen in the last year or two?
My pleasure, Councilman. We started, this board was formed in May 4th, 2023. That was our formation. We brought in half of the boards from the city, half of the board is appointed by the county. And we started with, frankly, a train wreck. It was terrifying. I had no idea as a community member just how far we needed to go in our volunteer fire department. A lot of things that I assumed were happening were not. And with this formation, we identified even just a basic business 101 was not there. Certain approvals, or were not the proper checks and balances, separation of duties, anything really at all that one would expect, given the importance and the amount of funding really that was going into this group. So as we started just kind of doing triage and determining what we needed to do first and how we needed to provide for a good foundation to both the city and the county when we were taking over in October of 2023. We've just really had a full year under our belt. It was very obvious that the financial accountability and just basic, just a purchase order rules and regulations. I think it was driving, our city manager up the wall and not really having the appropriate accountability that was there. The equipment was it was in shambles. There were so many that were out of service or that were
not fully in service, that the list became very obvious of what we needed to tackle up front. And proud to say that with the reorganization within the fire department, the chief that we have, Chief Etchison, is a phenomenal resource, got a great vision. The experience of Judge Hennington and the cooperation between the city and the county has allowed us to transform this, turn this thing around, be able to present financials, be able to show everyone with a P&L where everything goes, set up all separations of duties. As far as any kind of approval, there's many eyes on it across the board. We're going to bring in a bookkeeper to further, separate that from our treasurer's responsibilities. And just the training that we've seen. Now we're kind of in a maintenance phase. We're not in a repair phase. Everything except, I believe, one piece of equipment is fully in service and actually passes an inspection. So new equipment, new training. There was equipment that were years and years past their end of life. So the safety of these firefighters and the safety, frankly, of our citizens that the firefighters were trying to support was really in dire straits. And so it has done a 180, and we're very proud of the direction it's going and the morale within the department. And I think that, and we brought a lot of donors back in. People had left because of the lack of transparency. They didn't know where their contributions were going. We've brought those individuals back in the fold. They're very excited. We have people that are wanting to be a part of this organization, wanting to be part of the board. They want to participate. So it's really it's a great direction that we're going. And I'm really proud of all the board members and certainly all of the firefighters involved. It's just really it's been quite a transformation.
Thank you, Rusty. I appreciate you and all the volunteers. I know they're doing great stuff. Thanks.
Councilmember Martinez.
I want to congratulate you for your new positions. You didn't know what you're going to get through, so now you know. I highly supported the training for the people who they are serving the community. If we can help you in anything, we're here to help you. So, you can prevent accidents, get it bigger, like we had on May 26th. So they did a great job. So if we can prevent those cases with more training, we are here to help you. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. Councilmember Nance.
Two comments. One, I think this is a great project, co-project between the county and the city. And I think there's buckets of money that, the county has compared to us. So I think I would like to see some other projects co-work between the county and the city that could, work well for the community at large. But this is just an example of that. The next question I actually had was for Megan, and we'll be discussing tonight on the discuss application process for nonprofits to receive city funds. I saw in that we're going to have a policy on basically for transparency when city funds are given to an organization. And part of that was opening books up from those organizations to us so that we can see where those city funds actually occur. I guess, Megan, I was going to ask you, is that going to be similar for other places? I know we've donated money to the daycare for the school and then also for this emergency.
Yes.
So we would have access to those books, and then there's no issue from y'all's perspective sharing your books that way?
None whatsoever. We welcome that, encourage that. Our books are your books.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I do want to congratulate you also on your position, and I think they've got great leadership with you. Thank you with all that you said today. It's very important that everybody knows what you're doing.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, thanks, Rusty. Probably two questions. One to go work, and I know you don't know the answers right now. One is frequency of checking fire hydrants, because that's one of the things we rely on to occur. So we make sure we've got fire hydrants working across the city and wherever they may be from your all's perspective. The second is just, quarterly give us an update on where you stand budget wise. It feeds back into Darren's comments so we can plan for our budget for next year.
Certainly happy to do so. The hydrants, of course, would be from an operations standpoint. James would be able to provide that information, and we're certainly there to support him and make sure we stay on task.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm just gonna make a quick comment. So the water department and the fire department are already working on the fire insurance.
Good deal.
Be nice at some time to get a rundown of what's going on.
It's coordinating people's schedules.
I know,
That's been the challenge.
I know, there's
Yes,
nothing else
yes.
going on.
And Rusty, I do want to congratulate you on becoming the chair. There couldn't be a better chair. I think that you're really going to move the Emergency Services Board even further. I was at the very beginning stages along with Megan, and I know what kind of shape it was in. And so for the residents of Alpine, we have come a long way under the leadership of this board in making our fire department, our emergency services top tier. And I appreciate you with the training. I know a lot of the training was lacking back in 2023. So I am super excited, and I know the frustration that Megan felt prior to your engagement. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else? No. All right. Well, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on to report and presentation B, City Manager.
The next report is gonna be from the Family Crisis Center of the Big Bend, and I believe Naomi Hernandez is here this evening. No? Do we have anyone here from the Family Crisis Center? Unfortunately, I guess they could not attend, but they
Okay.
did provide the report and it is in the council packet.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're gonna move on to report C, City Manager.
The next item is the update from the Alpine Public Library. And we do have Don here with us this evening.
Great. Welcome, Don. Hello.
Good evening. Don Wetterauer, Alpine Public Library. Thanks for inviting me here to give you an update on what's going on at the library. We had about 200 people come to our open house in December. Everybody commented on how great everything was. They liked the way things were. And I have to tell you that almost every day, somebody comes in and says, oh, this is a great space. I really like the way it looks. And these are people, you know, we get visitors from all around the state. So it's, we're really pleased with what things are going. And the kids especially like that new kids area. There's a lot of activities going over there. And I still remember one of the elderly gentlemen who complained about the noise sometimes walked over to the window in the firewall and said, you know, it's like watching TV with the sound off. So he was really happy.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to mention a little bit about library accreditation. We're currently accredited. The accreditation is an annual process. It starts in January. And I will be putting together our information and hopefully submit the plan by the end of March. The Texas State Library is currently revising the rules for accreditation. The updated rules is something they do every 10 years or so. And the changes will go into effect next year. The update is really basically to clarify and simplify some of the rules in place now. If you're interested in checking out the proposed changes, the draft is available on the Texas Library, Texas State Library and Archives website. For us, the most significant change is the requirement to the minimum maintenance of effort. To be an accredited library in the state, a library must demonstrate local effort. And we do that by expenses, local operating expenses. Libraries must meet a minimum every year. The levels in the new updates are going to increase. So we're going to have a higher bar to get. But I think the average is the maintenance is going to average over the previous 3 years. So we get a 3-year average there. I'm on the Library Systems Act Advisory Board, and I expect we'll be meeting sometime in the summer to go over the changes, and later on this year make a recommendation to the State Library Commissioners. I really don't think at this time anyway that any of the changes will cause issues for accreditation with our library. We've had some significant personnel changes this fall. 5 people have moved on. 3 employees moved out of state. 2 had unexpected family health issues and had to resign. And another person is retiring. Mary Beth, our children's librarian, is retiring in February.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, I know. Anyway, we all recognize the time and effort over the years that she's put into making our children's programs really great. And we're currently accepting applications to fill the position. So if you know anybody, they're awfully big shoes to fill. But anyway, she's leaving in February. So I have to get going. Another thing, we received a grant from the Wayne and Joanne Moore Charitable Foundation to continue with adult programming. The yoga classes are very popular and I hope we can keep doing those. They're on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. We had a lot of people interested in first aid classes, so we'll probably do some more this year, this first aid and CPR. And we're gonna try again to do some financial planning, financial literacy. The person that was gonna do it last fall had some family issues of their own and we had to cancel that. The silent auction this year was one of our most successful auctions ever, which was really surprising and really nice thing to do. And they're already planning for next fall. Plans are underway to have another Dancing with the Stars, and that's planning on March 15th, right here in the Civic Center. If anybody wants to sign up for that.
I think that's a hint, council.
Yeah.
They always ask council.
Let's see, the board is working on, the library board is working on some more ideas for fundraising events. Coming up, travel talks will resume in January. The talks will be scheduled for the last Friday of every month. And then in a week, we're gonna have Mary Beth's last teddy bear sleepover. It's on Friday, January 17th and Saturday, the 18th. On the 17th from 4 to 7, they bring their teddy bears in and read them to sleep. Put them down. They come in the next morning at 10 and get their teddy bears and have a teddy bear story time. That's all I got for today. Do you have any questions?
Okay, Councilmember Nance.
I have 2 questions. We're going to be discussing nonprofit funding, the city funds today. First question is, how important to the library is the stability of those funds in y'all's budgeting process to know you're going to receive 40,000 or more every year?
How important is that? Very, very important. The city and county together give us about 35% of our funds. So everything else, we've got to raise through fundraising, donations. So yeah, it's a big thing.
Perfect. And then second question is, when we look at the policy that we were kind of putting together, is the library open to sharing their books and everything else?
Absolutely. And we have a city council person on the board, so they get the financial for every meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
So.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I think y'all are doing a great job. I
Thank you.
see everything on social media and I know a lot of people that go there. I go there.
Right, okay, great, thanks.
Councilmember Martinez.
I have a question. Do you have bilingual classes like Spanish classes or English classes?
Yes.
So-
Yes, we have both. We have Spanish classes. We have a good group of people. There are 3 classes a week teaching English speakers Spanish. We have beginning classes and we have advanced class. And we have ESL classes. I suppose we have 20 or 30 people in the ESL classes. There's one-on-one tutoring and there's also a conversation class.
Thank you.
And as part of that, we do citizenship in English and Spanish. So
That's a great job. Thank you.
very good. Mhm.
Councilmember Stevens.
Murals, I know they're getting ready to paint some murals. Can you give some update on where they are there funding needs and what they might look like?
Where they are is a good question.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
We've had somebody come over and do some more surface prep.
Yep.
Carrie Arts they were gonna do butterflies
Yeah.
for donations to put on there. They were supposed to have something for Art Walk. And obviously that didn't happen. So right now with the weather and everything, I don't expect much to go on until this spring, but we are hoping to have something done by later in the spring.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Don, and looking forward to seeing you for the first meeting on Thursday this year. I wanted to just give a plug to another thing that y'all are doing, and with, I'm guessing, limited resources and funds that are really important. The BigBendHelp.org, Big Bend Regional Resource Directory. I know that that's done through a San Antonio organization, but I'm on it right now, and you can find different local organizations as well as other organizations that serve our region. And so super important. Again, that's BigBendHelp.org if you're looking for some help paying a utility bill or where to be able to see a doctor at a lower reasonable price and so forth. And then the other thing I was going to let you plug is the pollinator garden. Is there a way to give to that as well?
The pollinator garden, yes. The Native Plant Society is planning this thing. They're raising money. I'm going to put something up on our website where you can donate to that. They're raising money. They told me the other day, they're about 15% of what they need. And I don't know what originally they told me they wanted to have something done by this summer, but I think it's gonna take longer than that. They've got some pretty big, so there will be something in there in the website. And the Native Plant Society is having a meeting coming up the 18th, I can't remember. And everybody's welcome and they'll probably have some talk about that.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so that moves us into information and discussion items. Information and discussion item A belongs to city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item for discussion is to discuss the Mountain Country Christmas Fair sponsorship application process for 25-26. The reason why I wanted to put this on the agenda is that the city council does have a Country Mountain Christmas every year, but we open it up to different nonprofits within the community. I know several of our community members, as well as our council members, do sit on other nonprofits or you participate in other nonprofits. The idea is to provide that transparency, if you want to say it, to give everyone the option to host the fair. So ideally what we do is we submit an application, or we open the application process, and then they come in and then council will review them and then determine who you want to award the fair to. There's no money in exchange for this. The idea is that they get the use of the Civic Center for the weekend that they sign up for. We reserve it, and then of course they can host the fair. They bring in their own vendors, they organize it themselves. Any of the funds that they collect are usually utilized to go back towards the community. In 2024, when we opened it up, actually I think it was 23 for 24, we had multiple applications and council did decide on the women's group. We're opening it up. It is a 2-year application. So whoever gets awarded will get awarded for December of 25 and December of 26. But I wanted to get this on your radar as well as the public's radar, so that those who are interested as nonprofits who would like to host this Country Mountain Christmas Fair, that they have the opportunity. So at the next meeting, I believe the February 4th meeting is when you guys will actually decide who gets the applications. The applications are due January 17th. They are available on our website. They're also available if someone was to walk in the front door and wanted to fill it out right then and there. Once we get all the applications on the 17th, they will be forwarded to council ahead of time, so you have some time to review. And then on the 4th, it will be an action item to award the actual. But I wanted you guys to be aware and for the community also to have that on. Okay, great. All right, Councilmember Nance.
I get all the first.
Yay, smile.
I guess I was gonna see, what is the rental rate for the Civic Center?
So we just changed it this past year, so it's $550. That gives you access to it to the day of the event plus the day before. If you need additional days, then it's another $50 for each day. There's a $200 deposit. Now whoever does get the app or awarded the sponsorship will have to pay the deposit, but then the rest of it is covered by this.
And is there a nonprofit rates on that? I can't remember.
No, so there's nonprofit rates in our Civic Center and that's free. No half.
No, it's a lot cheaper, like very cheap. And then of course, the women's club or whoever is awarded, they're not charged only
The deposit.
Only deposit. Because I was kind of wondering, and this is just me, I didn't have time to talk to you before this meeting on it, and that I was wondering, why is this the one event that we do this with instead of like the women's club just owning this event, and every year they, as a nonprofit or whatnot, go in and rent for the lower rates and everything else, and they put this event on, they own the event almost like an art walk or something like that. Is there a reason?
I think it's just historically, it's always, there have been other organizations that have done it. I think it's just been historically, council has the option. It is considered a city event, being hosted or sponsored by a nonprofit, but it gives every nonprofit the opportunity to bring in additional funds.
And from the city's perspective, what are we in on the event? What does the city provide, just as a,
The Civic Center.
or how much?
They just do the deposit and then they're refunded the deposit afterwards.
As long as there's no damage.
So free.
Yeah, so for,
And so the nonprofit rate's $100 with the $200 refundable deposit. Plus $50 per day for if there's any additional days.
So it'd be $100 to $150. Okay. That was the only questions I had.
Okay, great. All right, Councilmember Stone.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens.
I think
Councilmember Escobedo.
I'm just curious, how long has the Women's Club had the Mountain Country Christmas?
26 years.
no.
No.
No, so when I started with the city, it was another organization. They did it for a couple years. They broke their contract and didn't do it for the second year. So the Women's Club picked it up, and of course, we didn't have it during the pandemic. And then we did open the application back up. We had multiple people apply, and the council awarded it to the Women's Club.
17.
How many?
So
How
probably
long have we been doing it? 17 years.
Councilmember Martinez.
Yes, I just have a question. You said that it is for 2 years?
yes. So 2 Christmases. So it'll be for 25 and for 26.
Yes, my question is with Darren, so what you understand that, what just 2 years, so,
That is council's decision.
oh,
It really is. We've opened it back up so that council has the option to assign it to other people. You can change the time frame as well. We're just going with the standard practice.
okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else, council?
No.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, moving on to information to discussion, item B, city manager.
So one of the items that we've spoken about in the past, especially during every budget season, is providing additional funding through our general fund for different community nonprofits. I know currently we fund the Family Crisis Center, we provide funding for the Alpine Public Library. We also provide funding for the Child Advocacy Group. And then we've had others present or come before council with, well, how do we get, additional funding? What things can we offer? One of the discussions we had was, how do we put a process in place? It did take me some time to find other cities that actually do have a process in place, or they have separate committees, or do they have a certain money that they actually allocate? After doing a little bit of research and getting a hold of some of the other communities, there's not very many ordinances that actually outline this. It's more of an internal policy. So taking council's thoughts and recommendations and comments during last year's budget process, I've created a tentative form to use for nonprofits. Now, I do want council to understand that this doesn't have to encompass all nonprofits. We can modify it. This is just for discussion. Earlier, I did send out an email to all of council, kind of, let's have some discussion points. What you have included in the packet is a draft version of a possible policy for community service grant program and application. So this would allow that during the budget process, that nonprofits, we would open it up like we do for the HOT committee. We would open it up for a certain amount of time, and nonprofits could apply for funding, and they would have to provide additional information. I did contain some information in here as they have to meet a need of our community. It can't just be someone coming in, I'm a registered nonprofit and I would like some funding. It has to address the basic needs of our veterans, maybe our elderly, of low-income individuals. Is it a beautification? Is it education? Is it public safety? Is it a disaster relief? These are just general topics that I've seen other cities use. Some of them do have some specifics where they won't allocate money for certain programs because those programs are established other methods. I did not include those in here. Also in here, it provides an overall scope. What is the city looking for? Definitions. I think it's important that, we do put some clarification on what things mean. Eligibility, program guidelines, application process, of course, review, evaluation, and funding. I think that this is important as we've already started our budget process for the fiscal year 26 to have this conversation in line with, does the city council want to set aside a pot of money as part of the budget process that would then get awarded through an application process? So things to consider. If we set aside a percentage, and I know Darren's spoken to me about it, our counselor Nance, in regards to a percentage, do we look at how much our general fund is and then put a aside for specific nonprofits. Do we make it a little where, you know, we have our set nonprofits that we're gonna fund year after year, and we have a smaller part of money that we allow for others to come in and try to apply for? What is our predictability and stability for both the city and the nonprofits? So by changing the process, I know that Darren did ask the library in regards to, you know, what percentage of your budget. We do need to take that into consideration. Of course, there's the annual funding decisions, criteria, and eligibility, policy framework. So I wanted to get that out there now so that if we do go this direction, we can get it in place, open the applications, and allow nonprofits to apply. Maybe we do need to change the application, make it a little, you know, more open, more information. But I did take everything that you guys took into consideration in prior discussions, as well as what I could find from other cities. And I'm proposing a draft document of how we can move forward with assisting nonprofits.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinez?
I think that's a great idea. We need to return something back to their community, so they always support the city and paying their taxes, so I think it's a great idea to return to support their community. One of my questions is, are the churches applying for this nonprofit? It would be applied for.
That would
Would
be
they
a
apply?
decision of the council, whether or not to allow religious entity or religious groups to.
Even if for buildings or repairs or.
So that is not part of the process. The way that they become eligible is that they're considered, if they're providing Alpine residents the following: public safety and disaster relief, basic needs and service for veterans, basic needs and services for the elderly, basic needs and services for people with lower incomes, community beautification and upkeep, educational resources and assistance. So part of the application process would have to, any organization who applied would have to show that they meet those needs. I do have a couple spots where, do we want it where they have to meet those needs of a certain amount of residents? Or is it 10 people? Or is it 100 people? Or is it, you know, based on a percentage? Is it an exact number? There are guidelines that would have to be followed, as far as they would have to be in good standing with relevant state and federal regulatory authorities. Obviously, they'd have to provide the documentation to show that they are an actual nonprofit. They'd have to be able to demonstrate a measurable positive impact on Alpine residents. They must align with the grant program's priority focus areas listed above, which is the basic needs items that I listed. And of course, how do they benefit the residents? And then council would review those applications to see if they meet what is needed. So if council wanted to look at religious organizations, that would be your option. But the person applying would have to be able to show what they're bringing towards the residents.
Okay, my next question is, you talk about disaster release. So that would be a certain amount. Just for example, the fire on May 25th, if that happened, but you have to apply it in July. And this thing happened in January. So that means they would qualify when is disaster release.
So
Because that is the time that they can apply.
So the reason I included the disaster relief, like I said, I did look at other cities. Unfortunately, when we have pandemics, that would be a qualification for natural or disaster relief. We're looking at for larger scope disasters, not small focus. So if we had a tornado come through Alpine for some reason and it destroyed, that's years of rebuilding. They could apply for this type.
So any time of the year that it happened, a disaster, there would be some money available.
No,
No.
it would be for like a large disaster. So when the unfortunate event from May, they wouldn't have been able to apply for this type of funding. But if we were to have a large, like when the pandemic hit and everyone was scrambling, how do we help residents? How do we get this additional assistance? That lasted for multiple years. They would be able to apply for this.
Yeah, they would get tornado and that destroys several houses, that would apply immediately.
Not through this process, no. The city would take other means to move that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo,
I don't have anything to say right now.
Councilmember Stowe,
Mayor, I know it's hard to believe, but in a long, long time ago, Councilmember Stone used to literally do this for the state employee charitable campaign. So I'm happy to help if you want to ping me anytime. And I might even be able to dig up our old application, which has like literally the line by lines, like, are you a 501c3? Show me your status, you know, and so forth, with Texas Secretary of State and going down. And I think it's a great idea to be able to make sure that we're finding in good standing and reputable organizations. I might add a couple of comments. It seems like we got two sides to this, and I'm sure there's many more, but on funds, you know, it's really like monies that we don't use each year. I think that's a great pot to think about. I'm for like sending out stimulus checks or inflation checks to everybody, but at the same time, a next great place to be able to send some of that money is to some nonprofits to be able to look after the least fortunate and those that we want to be able to lift up in our communities too. So that might be a great place to start. On the second item that you were bringing up of how we actually do it and which organizations we're funding, I'd be in favor of continuing to fund the organizations that we do, at least at the levels that we are regularly. I think like the library, like the Family Crisis Center, like other organizations, Big Ben Pets, other places like that, they have come to depend on some of these funds, 35% of their budget. That's huge. And no kidding that, yeah, of course, there needs to be diversification of their income and their budget. But at the same time, it's hard to raise funds in general. And I can't imagine raising funds in Alpine. With that, I think you're exactly right. When you start to get into the weeds, it's if they have a actual location here, if they have an office, if they have a staff member that might qualify them. I don't know what the number is because I know there's an organization that South Texas Action Network took over some of the utility billing price.
Under this, they don't qualify.
Yeah, they wouldn't qualify. Yeah. And so how do we be able to incorporate some of these organizations or attract them to put a staff member here in town, or to be able to spend 10% of their operating costs or wherever that looks like? I don't know exactly those numbers, but I think there's something that we could, you know, work with those groups and be able to figure out to help them. And then the last thing I have to say is having these organizations with set numbers that they expect so that they can grow their revenues from other places to be able to do the huge expansions over here at the library and so forth. But then also to have another pot of money, what I would say year by year or maybe every other year, but to be able to have some incubator funds, to be able to start up some new nonprofits or other types of action networks. And I'm guessing they need to be C3s, but at the same time, to be able to start those up and to see where they lead to and how they're helping the community, and then see if, you know, we can hopefully move them into a regular funder each year as well. I know there's plenty of needs here, and so really appreciate you putting this all together. Thank you again, Megan. Thank you.
And I will definitely reach out to see if you have that application.
Sure, yeah.
Councilmember Stevens.
Thanks, Mayor. So one of the things, Megan, if we're going to do this, I think we need to define what the purpose of the funds would be used for. I don't believe it's appropriate to use taxpayer dollars to fund capital and improvements. They should be for operational, providing services back to residents. So I think the focus about, you know, they align with the needs of residents, I think is critically important. In thinking about how this application might apply to some of the organizations we currently fund, it's not clear to me how they will align. For example, the library. The library could fit all of the categories or none of the categories, but the library, in my mind, is an essential service for the city of Alpine, because while it's called the Alpine Public Library, it is not a public library. It's a private 501c3, and I don't know how we'd work it. And I'm just thinking about down the road, what that might look like. You know, the comment made, you know, and Don commented, you know, 35% of their operating funds come from the city and the county, and all of their improvements to facilities are all capital improvements, so they get donations elsewhere. I do think, and I think Reagan will be able to help expand the application, provide a brief description of project programs or how the project will benefit Alpine residents. I'm thinking as a member of council, sitting up here trying to make some difficult decisions. When I was at the Boeing Company, I had responsibility for $250 million decisions that went out every year. We got 20 requests for every dollar we gave out. So this gives an idea, the number of not-for-profits in this city, if you just go to the IRS 501c3 list and look at all the list, you'd be amazed at the number of 501c3s there are in Alpine. It is huge, okay? Many of them have blown right on past, they've not filed their documents, they've been decertified and all that, which says having 501c3s that are really important is going to be important, but I would have to admit, I am not in favor of supporting startups. Startups need to justify, and if it truly is of great significance to the majority of the 6,000 residents of Alpine, there seems to be enough money to get things going. So I really think we need to think about it in some more depth. I think the discussion's a good one. I just think we have more work to do to think about what this might look like. I do happen to like the organizations that we fund right now, because I think they do make a difference to Alpine. Family Crisis Center, the library, to me, those are some big ones. Eli and I put money into Sunshine House and the other ones that we think are really important that the city does not support. I think probably the other item will be important for us, and I think you address it, but I don't think we all understand it. The Emergency Services Board, we have a contract with them. That's not part of this policy. So that is a separate budget item we would make that would not apply to this. Because they're actually, we wrote them a contract to provide fire services to us. So they would not apply to this. So that's a separate budget discussion, but I think it's a great start. Let's keep the dialogue going. It might be worthy of a workshop to have further discussion. And maybe invite some of the potential organizations in to say, hey, help educate us on, help us understand that decision process so we can make a more informed decision. But I think it's a workshop. I'd push into the springtime, as your part of your budget process to just kind of get us going. But I think we've got some work to do, but a good start.
Okay, I want to bounce off of what Councilmember Stevens just said. I agree. We need to have some more discussion. What you put here is incredible. It's great. A lot of work, a lot of effort. And I went down the list and wrote down what the Sunshine House would fit under, and it definitely would fit under the services for the elderly. So then they would qualify. I felt like the library fit under number 6, educational resources and assistance. And then it also fit under basic needs and services for people with lower income, because we have the computers and the Wi-Fi and things like that. Family Crisis Center, I struggled. That's definitely provides a benefit to the community, and I would like to keep funding them, but where would we put them under this list? So I feel like we really need to look at this list and think about what we need to add to it. The safety and disaster relief assistance, I'm not sure. Councilmember Martinez brought up some good questions about that. So we do need to have some more discussion. We do need to look at it. A workshop, as Councilmember Stevens said, would be great. And then the nonprofits be invited to come in and talk about how they think they might fit under these categories. So I just wanted to bounce off of what he said and what I had written down. All right, Councilmember Nance.
Just a couple things. One, just to be transparent, I would be against this for churches, just because you're taking public money and donating it to a church. If you want to do that, you can do it privately and donate to your own church. I would be against that. And then would they open their books up and everything else? One idea that I actually had is I think it's good for the public to kind of know this, that we actually, there's a similar process for this with HOT money, hotel occupancy tax money, and there's an amount that the city receives based off how many people come to the city, and that pours all the money into the HOT. So that creates a set number that the city has access to then distribute out to organizations and everything. The good thing about that is there's no blank check. We have a set number that we're working with from that. We don't have that necessarily in a policy with this. So where my mind was kind of going was maybe this could work off a percentage of the sales tax. The city brings in about $2 million in sales tax a year. Right now, we're issuing out about 60,000 total to 3 nonprofits. Last year, it was 45,000 to the library. This year, 40,000. About 9,500 to the Family Crisis Center and 5,000 to the Children Advocacy. So we're giving about $60,000 council public money to those 3 organizations out of a $2 million sales tax thing. They're separate right now, but if we put those together, that's about 2.5 to 3%. What I do like about that is if we tie that to last year's sales tax, then as sales tax goes up, sales tax is naturally going to go up because of inflation, because we're spending more dollars and everything else like that. And when we look at the library, over the last, I think, 25 years, there's not been a raise. They've been at 40,000 for the last 20 plus years. So they've never had an inflationary raise. We gave them $40,000 in 1998 or whenever, and that 40,000 is way different now. It's about half. So if we tie this to something like sales tax, that money is going to naturally go up, and then we can come back and choose, are we going to keep issuing this money out to those 3 organizations? Or maybe we bump it up and we have a little extra and we can put a 4th organization like the Sunshine House or something else in there. One last thing on this I was going to say is one thing I like about the sales tax number, because we could choose a bunch of different numbers to remove us from having a blank check and giving that out. The sales tax number ties our I guess, involvement with nonprofits to economic development, which is a mutual thing I think we all really want for local businesses and everything else to succeed. So the more sales tax we generate, the more we can give. That was it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that was the other one I struggled with, the CASA that we support, the child advocacy. So we would need to make sure that we have that in, because I didn't know which one of these 6 categories to put that in. Because we have basic needs and services for veterans, elderly, and lower income, but what about children? So we do need to have more discussion. But this is a great start. I think it's important for transparency for everybody in the city to know where the funds are going and that there's criteria to receive them. So thank you for doing that. All right, with that, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Right.
6:43. All right, are we ready?
Let's
do it.
Too much water. Yeah.
Okay, all right, and we're back in session. All right, so we are on discussion and information item C, city manager.
The next item up for discussion is our budget process for fiscal year 2025, 2026. The reason why I've added this agenda item much earlier than we typically do is back in May when we started the budget discussions for fiscal year 25, I made the comment to council that I wanted to change things. Since my tenure with the city, the budget process has always been kind of the summer time period. I wanted to move up the dates, not only to have more time to have discussions, to have preparation, but also to free up our summers. A lot of us do have full-time jobs, including our council members and a lot of our residents. By changing the structure of the budget, moving up the time frame, it also allows us to have those if we don't have a quorum or we have a major item of discussion that's going to take us several meetings to go through. We are required by the state to meet certain deadlines when it comes to having our budget approved, having our tax rate approved. We have internal deadlines set from our charter, from ordinances. So it's really important for me to get a jump on this sooner than later. I've already initiated this discussion and the process with the departments. This actually started in November. For those in the public, our fiscal year starts October 1st. Our departments are now planning next fiscal year in November. So we're a month and a half into our fiscal year and they're already planning for the next fiscal year. The reason why I feel this is important is because there's a lot of changes that we're making as a city. Not only are we looking a lot more into detail into our infrastructure, but we're looking at updating our ordinances. We're looking at how do we improve our employees? How do we look at retention? How do we help our community? What services can we provide? What services do we want to change? Do we want to add? So part of the process is to start earlier. And it's a little undaunting. So the departments have already been asked to provide their priority goals and capital improvement programs. This was due yesterday. We had a priority workshop with city council today to get an idea of where your priorities are and the direction you foresee the city going, which you're maintaining the same priorities. We're looking at our infrastructure and employees. The next workshop will be January 21st. We invite everyone to attend because I'm bringing in a third party to look at what we have available for funding opportunities. And this will be a debt discussion. We have large projects that need to be completed that does affect our public, especially on our infrastructure. Do we want to go out for debt for large water improvement projects? Do we want to put in 3 new wells within the city? And there's a wealth of things we can do, but how do we fund it? I know that nobody likes to raise rates. They don't like to raise taxes. But we also know that we've had the residents and the public come before council and say, hey, we want to see improvements. This is the discussion to see how we can have them. But the funding that's available, what do we have currently in the future we can move forward towards? When you look at the calendar, I wanted to get this before council sooner than later because I also know that you guys have your own schedules. Typically in the past, we've tried to calendar everything around the regular council meetings so that we're not adding more on your plate and having you to schedule different things. Once again, we do take into consideration you have full-time jobs. So the workshops and everything are going to be scheduled with regular city council meetings starting at 4. So 1, the council can attend. You're not having to bring in extra days within your schedule. But 2, that the public is also aware ahead of time. Usually we'll start in May. We'll post them for June. There's not much time. Right now, our budget workshops are tentatively set for March and April, which means next month, our next city council meeting, we'll have the actual date set because it'll be set with regular scheduled meetings. Presenting information to council, trying to meet our deadlines. The draft capital program will be presented in May. We'll have discussions. I've made it clear to the departments and I've had the conversation with city council that our CIP has developed and it has changed significantly in 3 years. We went from a single line item Excel spreadsheet to a 126-page document that outlines every project that the departments are looking forward to completing. But then it also provides additional information. It has a visualization. There's also a complete summary that shows you Currently, our capital improvement project, or our plan is over 10 million in funding needs. 8 million of it is in your utilities, which is water and wastewater. So it's really important to know, how are we gonna fund this? But it also gives you an understanding of what's the difference between a capital improvement project and what is an asset. A lot of what we have in our CIP are considered assets. They're one-time purchases, whereas a capital improvement plan or program should be a multi-tiered or year-based project. This is your construction. This is Pueblo Nuevo Park. This is where we go in and we modify, rebuild. It's not purchasing a backhoe. It's not purchasing a dump truck. Those are capital assets. So it's providing that additional definitions and explanations, but also so that our departments understand that I want all new infrastructure on the west side of Alpine. That's a CIP that has to be engineered, that has to be funded differently, that has to be really truly looked at. Whereas I need a backhoe to operate my day-to-day operating functions is an asset that can be purchased within a year. So you'll have those discussions sooner so that you have the ability to say, okay, this is a CIP, this is an asset, I'm looking at the budget, this is my budget draft. Can we get in as an operating expense, or do we need to look at it differently? We've also moved up the approval of the fee schedules. This is really important because when you're looking at the budget, if we're gonna take on different operating needs or we're gonna take on long-term debt, we have to understand how the fees work. When you look at your utilities, the utilities aren't funded by property tax. They're funded by the rates we charge the residents, which means if we're gonna go out for a big project or big purchases, we have to make sure that those fees cover that cost. These will be discussions we have at that time. Of course, it's also the approval process. There's also the HOT grants. This is what we recently just talked about, the nonprofits. There's a process where you guys allocate that fund as well. Getting this in ahead of time so that it's a nice complete budget and it shows you what you're awarding all of the events is already included. My favorite, of course, is the discussion on the tax rate. So we can't do that early. We get a I can never say the word, preliminary draft of the appraised values in April. That kind of gives us an idea of what the direction that the appraisal is going to go. They're not set figures. The appraisal district is not required until July 25th to provide certified tax or certified appraised values. And that one is set by the state. So ideally, when we're looking at this budget process, we will be operating off of preliminary and current rates or appraised values to determine what the difference is. Do we need to raise taxes? Are we comfortable where we're at? What direction are we going? But all these discussions are being held ahead of time so that we're not crunching everything in. Every year in September, we pretty much have a meeting every week in order to meet all of the required deadlines. Hopefully this will eliminate that. And then of course we have to have our required budget hearings. We have to have our required tax hearings. The budget does get approved before the tax rate, just so that the public understands. We can't approve the tax rate and go change our budget to meet what we want and then approve the budget. The budget actually has to be approved before the tax rate. Also included within the budget calendar is actually what the state requires. So it's not something that, you know, oh, we're going to set these deadlines. The state actually has specific requirements to when we can advertise, this, how soon we can advertise, how long we have to advertise. They get down to the specifics where we have to have specific size font in order to have within our budget and in our advertising. So all of that is actually outlined and included within the packet that shows you each of the different things that the state requires. And then I updated it to include everything based on our current charter to show you that we have additional restrictions or requirements set out by the charter. So we not only follow the state, but we follow the charter as well. So we're moving the budget timeframe up about 6 months. And this will allow everyone some time to process, to get the data, to understand, to have the conversation. And we're not trying to push it all into 2 months, August and September. So we'll have 90% of it done, hopefully by the end of May, so that people can have the normal discussions. We've got a couple maybe workshops if we need to. And then in August, we sail into approving the budget and the tax rate. And then, you know, we go into the new fiscal year.
Great, thank you. Okay, Councilmember Martinez.
I like the idea to start earlier, getting ready for the budget. One thing, because when I got in, it was like new member in budget meeting, in budget workshop, and budget and budget, and I was like, okay. So I think it's a great idea to start it before, so if we can get used to it, and the new ones have time to already, we get into that, so. And we don't have as many meetings as you say, I got here in workshop again, meeting again, workshop again, so it will split the minutes, that would be perfect, so I like the idea.
Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. Segue right off of that, I think it's a great idea to have longer periods of time. Invite everybody to come out to these budgets and workshops. I do have, I guess, in one way, kind of the devil's advocate to that is that there will be, potentially new members sitting up here. And so I'm hoping that there's still room for changes. And I know a lot of this stuff, 90% of this budget is going to be pretty darn similar year to year. But at the same time, that there will be a welcomeness to those that if and when there are new members, that they'll be able to implement some of, their ideas and what they were elected upon as well.
And that's actually another reason why I wanted to move it forward, Counselor Stone. It's because I know when you guys took office in May, we hit the ground running. You didn't get really kind of a, what's a sample or what are your thoughts? This would have it drafted, conversation, then a pack.
Thanks.
Councilmember Nance.
Great job, Megan. No comments.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I like this.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Megan, nice job. Nice putting together, nice schedule. Just for everyone, we have a budget of about $17.2 million that we bring in revenue and expenses. So it's one of the three things we as council do. Set budget, set policy, and hire the city manager. So one of the important things we know to do. Thank you.
Okay, I think it looks great. Well done. Okay.
And once I get the dates officially set for the budget workshops for March and April, we'll make this on the website as well, so that if people, 2:00 in the morning, you're bored, you can go in and the next meeting is.
That's right. And then all of our meetings, all of our workshops are on YouTube, the City of Alpine YouTube channel. Okay, action or information discussion item D belongs to Councilmember Stevens.
Great, thanks, Mayor. And Megan, glad to take a little bit off the information discussion for you. Number 4, you've talked a lot here. I'm gonna try and make this as short as possible. There's been a lot of discussion by some property owners regarding the existing City of Alpine zoning map, and that's what this action item is about. Some background, a number of property owners have expressed some concern about their property not having been properly zoned and would like their property returned either to the original zoning designation or quote unquote grandfathered to the correct zoning designation they believe to be the correct zone. Geo did a lot of homework. We've had the benefit of that. I've tried to summarize some of what Geo put together in a way that makes it relatively straightforward for all of us to get it. First key point. In 1969, the City of Alpine City Council established Ordinance 445, which defines the process for approval and publication of the official zoning map for the City of Alpine. The City of Alpine District zoning map prior to 1969 was adopted in December of 1967 and revised 2 times in 1968. The most recent zoning map that was adopted per the ordinance was in May of 2013. So there was a long period of time. There have been some interim ones that were never officially adopted and people look at them, but I think it's important to kind of bring it all up in terms of where we're at, what the history was going back to, again, 1967, and then the current map we have in 2013. It's true that the Brewster County Appraisal District sometimes applies property taxation codes, and thank you, Councilor Nance, for pulling that up and working with the GO on that. Then shows up in the zoning by the City of Alpine. They are related, but not related. It has to do with how taxation occurs, not what the zoning relates to. The other, I would say, is there are a number of examples where some individuals did not follow the zoning requirements of the City of Alpine, and there are no consequences or actions taken. And I thank Gio for highlighting his grandmother as being one of the violators. She had a beauty salon, it was not properly in the zoning area. It's not a big, it happened across all of Alpine and many people look and say, that's the way my property's always been. Therefore, the city of Alpine, we have improperly zoned it. So with that as background, I took two specific cases that came to us, both of them in Lucy's ward. Specific case number one deals with 601 South Walker Street. The property was originally the Flamingo Bar owned by Melinda Vega's father in the 1960s. He also owned Aguilar's Filling Station. For those of us who would go south on Highway 118, you can see him on the right-hand side of Highway 118. The property is zoned R4, residential 4, which means mobile home park or mobile homes, okay? And that's according to the zoning map of 1967 and 2013. The property consists of a single non-residential building with the rest of the property surrounded by a 6-foot high metal fence. So even though it's R4, there's no trailer there and it's never been used for residential. Okay, so I can understand why that owner would say, hey, it's improperly zoned, but according to the zoning map, it does not comply. The property is not currently occupied. The property owner wants to lease the property to an individual who wants to operate a plant nursery for commercial and retail sales. Now the surrounding area. As you continue south on Highway 118, a half a block away is a lot zone neighborhood commercial district, a C1. In May of 2000, the property owner at the time petitioned the city council requesting that the zoning be changed to C1 commercial. A number of residents voiced concern to the city council. They did not want alcohol served at the property location because originally it was a bar, okay, and the city council took no action. The following month, the motion made to study the change of zoning. The motion died for lack of a second. And here we are today, 24 years later, in the same situation.
Almost 25.
Yeah, almost 25. So the current property owner was present during the Planning and Zoning Commission City Council Joint Workshop in November. We had a month and a half ago and used the opportunity to express frustration, which I believe is rightfully so, of what appears to be a lack of notification about property zoning change or unilateral actions by council. The fact is, council never took unilateral action. The council never took action 24 or 25 years ago. I have 3 recommendations. 1, that 601 South Walker is on Highway 118 in close proximity to commercial district with commercial built businesses operating with the city of Alpine and just outside the city limits in Brewster County. There is a commercial building on the property. The recommendation is the Planning and Zoning Commission evaluate potential for all city property on the west side of Highway 118 between East Avenue H, which is commercial, a vacant lot, and 601 South Walker that faces be rezoned as C1 at the next City of Alpine Planning and Zoning meeting and make a recommendation to City Council as quickly as possible so the property owner and property potential lessee can finalize any business relationship. So that's the first item. To get your feedback to say, hey, that makes reasonable sense. Let's get P&Z to go take a look, come back and make a recommendation to us. But that would be my recommendation, given the property, how long it's been used, and it's been vacant, and I think it's in a commercial district. Does that make sense? Okay, and Megan, I'm not sure the right work, we can work with Matt to go work it, but let them go study it and come back.
So we'll make sure to get it on the agenda.
That'd be great. Super. Thank you. Okay, case number 2, more complex. Okay, this deals with the property at 702 East Avenue H. If you go and take a drive out there one day if you like, you'll find the properties on the east edge of Alpine. It is zoned R4 and includes a private residence and separate building. There are actually 4 buildings on that lot. Okay, actually the block, they own the block. The property is shown on the 1967 zoning map, along with the May 68 and September 69 revisions, and the 2013 zoning map as R4, okay, which is mobile home. For several years, the resident has been a skull and shoulder mount. That's an animal's head, skin, and fur down to the sternum taxidermist. There's no meat harvested at the location, and the resident complies with the Texas Fish and Wildlife requirements. A taxidermist operation is not allowed to operate in an R4 zone, even though they have been. The business does not have retail customers nor walk-in traffic, and in essence is a home business. So that's how they operate. That's why never discovered. The property owner believes his property was originally purchased and zoned as commercial property. I can find no evidence of that anywhere in the process. It's on the edge of town. And if you take a ride out to the property, if you look at some of the residents around there, you might conclude some of those are commercial businesses, but they're all R4. Across the street, a guy has 4 trailer homes and a bazillion tractors sitting out there, plus trailers, plus equipment. And, it meets the requirements of R4, but there's lots of other things there. One of the issues raised by the building city official is whether or not the owner has a grease trap on property, which should be required associated with the work that he's doing. There is not one. The property's been operated for several years as a home-based business without application of a conditional use permit. So here's another case, operating, doing their thing, got discovered. There's a whole sort of story about how it all got uncovered. I'm not going to go through all that because it deals with a separate business, but nonetheless, it's where we're at. Recommendations. 1, I believe the city of Alpine building officials should determine if there is a way for appropriate requirements for ventilation, waste disposal, setback from adjacent property, etc., for a home-based taxidermy business to operate without impact to the surrounding neighbors. Number 2, the building official ought to review the results with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And if the Planning and Zoning Commission and the building official determine that a set of requirements be established and proceed forward with the conditional use permit, that would have to come back to city council because we have to approve that according to our zoning ordinances. A fair amount of work to be done. But I think it's something that could be worked, and then we can make a determination or not. We got to get a building official first, but be able to work through that. If I think about the summary of looking at all this over the last 35, 40 years, there has been a lack of understanding of the history behind property zoning in Alpine. The city secretary, again, Gio's done an excellent job pulling together a ton of records and data and taking necessary steps following the requirements of the City of Alpine Ordinance 445 that was passed in 1969. Over many years, lack of understanding of property zoning and lack of sufficient staff to provide oversight to city action relative to zoning, and some well-intended property owners have taken steps and actions not aligned with the city's zoning requirements. In essence, I believe there's culpability on both sides. In my view, our intent on city council and the city leadership is to help property owners understand the history of zoning, and the other, work with property owners to consider options and implement actions that are aimed at the best interest of Alpine overall and the property owners. Not always easy to work, but I think for me, this has been really instructive. I know for the 2 property owners, it's been instructive. I'm sure there'll be more, but I thought it worthwhile to kind of walk through. I think we have a potential good solution for the one property on 118. I think the other one is harder to work, and Megan, I'll work with you on that. So those are my comments, thoughts. I put this paper together. We can share this with whoever we want because I think it gives a history and helps clarify some of the things that we've all struggled with sitting on council.
Thank
Thoughts?
you, Councilmember Stevens.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for doing this background research. Thank you, City Secretary, for all the work you did. I knew
Thanks, Gio.
that required an inordinate amount of time to do that. So thank you.
Yep.
And I hope your grandma was okay with you throwing her under the bus.
It was the wild, wild west back then.
There you go.
Yeah, yes.
Yep. That's all I've got.
Okay, great. Councilmember Escobedo?
This has been a long, ongoing process. I wasn't even here when this started at the time, and so I'm all about helping the community, especially businesses. I just barely saw that another one had closed here in town, which isn't good. And these people are trying to bring, put money back into the economy, and that's important. And at the same time, like the Flamingo, she totally said she was not doing alcohol. She wants to do something else. So we need to help these people. The other one, there are other businesses around there, including, I think there's an Airbnb around there too also. I mean, they even have an open and closed sign.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and it's functioning. But at the same time, the people from the taxidermy, we went around and asked, the majority of the people around there are related and had no problem with it. They didn't even know it existed because they do most of their stuff at night because they work all day. And it's not every night either. It's when they can. But it also helps fund their kids' college, which is very important. To me, education is a very big thing. So that is some of the other things that need to be considered. There are more properties. These are just two. There's two other ones.
We'll go working.
Mhm.
Okay, Councilmember Nance.
I guess one thing before we move forward, I definitely want to research this and learn more. I really would like to get Jessica's opinion on all this kind of stuff, or whoever knows all these, knows the most from the city in this perspective, because they're going to be the ones that have to come back and deal with any future issues with it. And they say, well, you did this for this person and not this person or anything else. Like, I mean, one I was just thinking about just now is the, do they pay commercial dumpster rates? When they were actually had a taxidermy out there, were they paying commercial dumpster rates?
Yes,
We would have to verify the.
they were in it, got picked up.
They were.
They were paying, okay.
Yes.
So that's what I was gonna say, then if, you know, if you're gonna be a commercial zone, then there's gonna be other things that come with being a commercial zone.
Yep.
And then the one last thing I was gonna say is if we start doing commercial or conditional use permits, just like we did from over a year ago when we allowed beauty salons in any residential zone. So now your grandma would be okay.
Yes.
She'd be back. in
You just have to get that
especially-
permit. Yeah,
Yep.
just the permit.
Blessing of the government. But if we end up doing commercial use permits, then what we do for one person, we're gonna be opening up for other people. So whatever that kind of means, whatever we do has to be fair for everyone throughout the city.
So it'd be conditional, not commercial. Yeah, so
For the
it would not be,
second
it
case.
would still remain in R4. And our R4 allows conditional use permits. So we'd have to go through the process. That's why I said, what are the requirements, setbacks and all the other things that would be important to be consistent across.
Because that's what I think is, I don't want to issue a conditional use permit for one person and not another person when everything else is parity.
Yeah.
No,
Right up
I
there.
agree with you.
So the second example would be the conditional use permit, the taxidermy, and the first one would be a zoning change.
That'd be P and Z come back with a recommendation on zoning change in what looks to be commercial use already.
Right, which would not be spot zoning if it was already.
It would not
We have to be
spot zoning.
careful of that.
By all means.
State.
No, that's why the recommendation is that whole area, which in my opinion, over time,
It will be
it's gonna be.
developed.
Right,
It will be
it
developed.
makes sense, it does. Councilmember Martinez?
We're here to support businesses. We want more business to get in business. But I agree with Nance that we need to check if they fulfill the requirements with Jessica is right now in the position, whoever's in the positions. If they comply with all the requirements, why not? Why not to support them, you know? So we're here to help them and know that we can't. But as long as that they fulfill the requirements and codes that they need to be for the safety of the neighborhood. So.
Yeah, right now, there are no requirements that would allow that. So I think building officials got to come back and say, here's what the
Yes.
requirements would be for
Yes.
something like that.
Yes, they need to go and check that out and move on.
Councilmember Stone?
Thank you, Mayor. You're right in saying, case number one's easier than case number two.
Yep.
I think, I think there's an appetite to be, having a corridor along our highway and some way of having some mixed use. That makes sense. And I think much of the body, in Alpine might agree with that in some ways too. Case two is hard because, I think there was at least one person had a complaint about it, as far as I understand, and we got to look out for their interests just as much as the 5 other people around them that said, that's my grandpa and I love what he does, and sending kids to college. And so, I'm looking forward to learning more about it. And, I can't say that I'm on one side of the easel or other right now, but yeah.
Great discussion. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Certainly.
Yes, and thank you for all your hard work on it as well. All right, moving on to action items. Action item A belongs to the city manager.
Thank you. The first action item tonight is to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-11-01. An ordinance authorizing the vacation, abandonment, and sale of the unimproved portions of Saltillo Avenue, Monterey Avenue, Toluco Avenue, and Avenue C, all situated within blocks 1 through 6, Paloma Edition of the City of Alpine, Brewster County, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute a deed without warranty to the applicants Michael and Lynn McPherson, directing that funds from the sale of the city's interest be deposited into the general fund for the purpose of street improvements, providing for terms and conditions of such thereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I need a second.
I second.
Okay, discussion, city manager.
So this is the third time this item has been on the agenda. The first reading was presented on November 19th, 2024 to City Council for the sale of the unimproved streets located within this property. The council did ask for additional clarification as to the purchase of and the reasons why, what was going to be done with the property. It was put back on the agenda on December 3rd for additional consideration. Mr. McCarson wasn't able to attend at that time. So we're putting it back on the agenda for consideration. This is for the sale of the unimproved streets. So there is city property that runs through that huge lot that they're asking to purchase. Mr. McCarson is here this evening to answer any of the council questions.
Great. Okay, Councilmember Stevens.
I have a whole bunch of questions. I'd like to hear a presentation about what the plan is, because
Okay.
there is not sufficient information here for me to look and understand what the game plan is. I've heard lots of comments and questions about it. So I have a presentation.
Okay, Mr. McCarson, if you would step to the podium and just state your name and.
All right. Mike McCarson. Hello, neighbors. Didn't know I was going to give a presentation, but we'll try to wing through it. I'm simply asking to replat this 5 acres. There's an existing plat there, and there's already lots platted and streets laid out. The city has never built the streets, and this was originally done back in the 1970s or so. So for this entire time, lots have been for sale in that area. Anybody could buy one and build a house anytime they wanted to. The lots just never sold for whatever reason. I think probably because they were platted too small. If I look at the original plat, there's 5 streets, and I haven't counted them, but there must be like 70 or 80 lots. And so I'm requesting a change from, instead of putting in 5 streets and selling 80 lots, to simplify it and abandon the streets and just have 10 larger lots to be able to build nicer homes. So there's no change, I'm not asking for any change in the zoning, what could or could not be there. They've always been zoned to build a house, and anybody could at any time buy a lot and build a house, I guess, as long as they're adhering to the building codes and stuff. So there's no change as to what could be done with the property for me to proceed. There's nothing stopping me now from just selling individual lots as platted and letting each individual person build whatever they want to build there. So, so for the city, I guess there's no change in what could be done, except my request is let's simplify it from 80 lots and 5 streets to 10 nicer sized lots that accommodate a nicer house.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens.
So what I hear is creating 10 lots, which is currently zoned R2. Would you also be proposing that those 10 lots be zoned R1 or continue or have them replatted as 10 lots as R2?
I already know what those R codes are, but I wasn't requesting a zoning change.
Okay, well, it's part of the question. So R1 is single family dwelling. R2 is 2-family dwelling. R3 is multifamily. R4 is mobile home.
And what are they listed? What's the zone now?
The current zoning is R2.
R2, which could be a single family or a multiple family?
No, single family or 2-family on a single lot.
Okay.
Okay, what I heard you describe is taking it from the 80 lots that was platted a gazillion years ago, changing that to 10 lots. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the plat that I have submitted.
Okay,
So just some additional information. This all started because he filed to replat. So he wanted to replat the property, and in discovery, it was noted that there was actually the abandoned streets
yes.
within it, and he can't replat because he doesn't own those. And so that's where the petition to purchase the streets came into place. Just a little additional information.
So in essence, you'd be taking block 1 and split it into 2 plats. Block 2 into 2 plats, block 3 into 2 plats, block 4 into 2 plats, and block 5 into 2 plats. And absorb right now, which are empty streets in between. Is that kind of what do I understand that correctly?
I believe that's accurate, yes. Changing it from one thing to another, yes, changing it from those, right now there's what? 6 blocks. And
Yeah.
changing it to really no blocks, just changing it to 10 individual lots,
10 individual.
all on 16th or Brown Street.
Okay, and continuing with Olive Street as is running between Brown and Olive kind of dead end. And the other street off of Brown, I'm looking at the plat that exists, so I don't know what that street is, but so you would have entrance to 5 of the lots on Olive and entrance to the other 5 lots on the other street. That makes sense?
I believe that's correct. The purpose of the Olive Street, that which is already platted, it's nothing I'm doing, but that street gives access to the properties behind it.
To the behind, plus the other 5 lots that would be
Yes,
on
correct,
the west side of Olive.
correct.
Okay. And in this request, then, and not only are you talking about the purchase of the property, then would be that's part of the replat purchase agreement. So your proposal is have the city vacate the streets that are not paved nor maintained. You would buy those, and as part of that, the replat would occur.
Correct.
Okay, and Megan, I didn't see the replat in here. All I saw was the purchase agreements. Is there a replat?
No.
Okay,
I have it right here. It's been submitted.
On council's approval, and we require them to replat. So if approved, then they would replat. The way he's trying to replat before, he didn't own it, so we denied it.
okay, but we could make a condition of the sale that the replat occurs to those 10 lots.
We always.
And I believe he has a copy of how he originally wanted to replat with him.
Okay, that's great. We just haven't seen it, so that's why I'm asking the question. Yeah. Okay.
Councilmember Nance?
I was gonna ask, so this is not a replat into one parcel, this is a replat into 10 parcels.
Correct.
Okay, my assumption was, seeing what this was gonna be just one great big replat into everything.
You like to see this?
I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Great
don't.
audit.
Oh,
Okay, let me remind the public to remain quiet, please.
Okay. So there's Olive Brown. On 16th, okay, so the 10 lots are roughly 100 feet wide, give or take a little bit, and are roughly 200 some odd feet deep, give or take a little bit, with 2 corner lots and then a big lot down there at number 10,
that's the bridges.
next to the railroad right of way.
Is that on Soul Ross Avenue side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. This is very helpful. Very helpful. Okay.
Pass it down.
You might show that to some of your neighbors after this. Thank you.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Seeing that, then is there, there's no alley or anything else, so that would just be one house along the North 16th Street? And the backyard would be abutting Olive Street, or would there be a house on either side?
No, those lots would have, the back of the property would butt against Olive Street, the front would be 16th. With no alley.
Is
Very
there
big
currently a
lot.
street there? Is Olive a real?
Not currently.
It's not a street.
I would tell you, one thing that worries me is, do you see where you have the 25-foot alley there? Is close to lot 9, between 8 and 9. Right there. So a majority of these streets in that, I live in that neighborhood, I'm right there, close to you guys. Even though that's not my ward, it's kind of weird, but I was gonna say, that provides one entrance in. Olive Street would be the single way in and out of that street. Which worries me would be.
Second. Point of order, please remain silent in council chambers.
Oh,
That's the first and last warning.
It just, the one thing that I was thinking, it would be nice to have 2 entrances to that area. So an entrance on Olive Street on the north side and an entrance back into what would be Lockhart Street. That would be an intersection there. When you look at the map here, there are streets that would intersect onto 16th Street, but it doesn't line up with any other street of the city. It's really weird. So you would have a whole bunch of intersections along that road, which makes the road more complex. If we were going to retain one section of that land, it would be the 25-foot alley, because that would actually create an intersection at Lockhart
You are retaining that.
from that alley.
Yeah, that belongs, that stays city property.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And 25 feet, what standard roads, I mean, our roads are very, very wide, 30.
30, 32, yeah.
So that could be a road. And then my question would be, the city creating infrastructure over there for water and sewer and everything else.
So I do want additional
You can-
clarifications from Carson.
It's okay.
I know the conversation is, selling the street so you can replat. And I think some of the confusion is then you would sell each of the 10 lots. Or do you have a developer, or are you yourself developing each of those 10 lots and building houses?
The lots would be for sale. It's unknown at this point if I build something on it and sell it, if I just sell the lots. Anybody that wants to buy one, you're welcome to approach me and I'll sell it for you.
Because I know that was some of the questions and some of the comments that were made with, I didn't ever get the feeling that you were the developer wanting to come in and develop. You were the property owner wanting to replat so you could have it possibly sold and developed. So it would be an individual lot sale and someone could go build based on the zoning a house. And have a huge backyard.
No, we don't have enough.
Or a duplex, because they fall within R2.
Right.
There's certainly, I mean, I certainly wouldn't restrict myself to say I can't do this or I'm gonna do that. I mean, I own the real estate, I own it, and if I want to sell a piece of property, that's what I want to do. But I'm not in business, I'm not a developer. I'm retired. I actually was just looking for a lot for me and looked around and found that property. I said, well, I'll just buy that and sell off the rest of it. The larger undesirable lots is against the railroad track, it's the one I'm gonna keep myself, and the rest of them I'm just gonna sell. But I'm not a developer, I'm not currently in business to. I don't have employees, I'm not doing this for a living. I live on a ranch, I only work 7 days a week, so.
So that's currently zoned R2.
It is.
It would remain R2, so we could have up to a duplex at each of those lots, correct?
You could have up to a duplex on the 10 lots, so you could have 20 properties
Houses.
there.
Mhm.
If I look at the next block over on the other side of 16th, the west side of 16th, which is also R2. In roughly the same amount of space, there are 20 residences there. So the density would be about the same.
And that's only if someone bought the lots and did that. He may sell a single lot and one house.
Yeah, you can build a single or a
So-
duplex, or at most an R2.
There's a lot of assumptions on someone coming in and building all this.
Probably as my interest would be for the value of the lots to be as large as possible. So it would not be in my interest to sell it to somebody to build something that would decrease the value of the lots. So I'm only looking to sell the lots. So it's very likely that I build one house on one lot to start with, so I can set
Yes,
the
that's-
value for the remainder of the lots. And I've already been in discussion with a couple of the contractors in town that, and I have house plans drawn up. And they're more than willing to build them, you know, the purpose of that being to establish a value and maintain the value.
Councilmember. We come back.
Yes.
Councilmember Stone.
What ward is this in?
I believe it's
3.
We think 3, but we're not,
not 3.
it's not 3.
It's Ward 2.
Or 2.
Well, everybody been saying 3.
Okay.
It's right next to 3.
So
Yeah.
that, yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
we're
line
right
is
there.
right. Okay, I'm just asking.
Most of them. The 16th Street residents.
Which, yeah, I'll just say, like, when we saw this a couple of months ago, we thought there was gonna be apartment complexes all the way down. And that was
Is
probably.
that called small town rumors?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think the issues, obviously, there's, infinite ones that have been discussed here. I was also talking about if we got, an asphalt paving, and we're gonna have flooding on Sol Ross, and, everything else that is gonna come along with everything that folks have brought up too. This sounds more that we can eat this a little bit, it doesn't sound immediately like everybody's gonna be throwing up in this room right now after, we talk about this more. I guess the best thing, I hope that, if you bring this over to some of your neighbors over here, that since you own property in the neighborhood over there. I hope nobody's gonna rip this up or anything, but that you might look at this. And think about, that they're pretty decent sized big lots, and I'll be honest. The way that it's currently zoned, the infrastructure could not support 80 homes there right now anyway. And so the way it is right now, it doesn't work. 20 properties, and I bet it won't be all 20. It could too. And that's something we have to understand. I am for some density because we want to keep people in town and we want to be able to have these beautiful skyways around town as well. Outside, we don't want to have huge neighborhoods going up all around Alpine and creating more traffic for in town. But at the same time, it is a change, and that's something we have to understand. I guess the last thing I'll say is, we're gonna be going to on the 17th and 18th to learn about this book and about keeping a small town and community alive. And one of those, if I remember correctly, is being open to some changes. I know that there's gonna be still comments and bickering and rumors and everything else. So I appreciate you being open and talking with us.
Appreciate that. I can't see that it's a change because it's already, the council already approved in 1970 for there to be 80 homes there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't alive, but yeah.
All right, Councilmember Martinez.
I want to thank you to be here today and explain us all the issues. That was a lot of misinformation. So it's good to see something that is effective, that is current. And I think it's a great idea. Thank you for investment in Alpine and beautified Alpine. With this, it would be more beautiful instead of just empty lots. And I think it would be a good improvement for the city. So thank you for being here tonight, and like the neighbors we like to see so they can understand a little bit more. It was a lot of misinformation, how you say.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I'm glad there's not gonna be apartments there. That's a big one. And it is important that we got to see that. That explains a lot, because I was very confused with what we have here, but that did clarify a lot.
Councilmember Nance.
I was just gonna say a couple things. When we were listening to the public comments at the start, I went to the CAD and was adding up the city of Alpine, the value of that street on each side. And on Allison's side of that street and everything else, you guys, that block brings in $3,500 in taxes to the city annually. The lot that you're on right now brings in 250. So 14 times the wealth is being brought to the city on the side that has been developed, which is very important because we heard some people complain that the roads have potholes and that there's infrastructure issues and everything else. And that all gets paid by actually having taxes and the wealth that people come in and bring. So we can't be, we can't say no to all development. There's 14 times the wealth on the side of the street that has been developed compared to the side that hasn't. So I think that's going to be a good thing there. And then a couple of the other issues, we all talk about housing affordability, which is increasing supply and, increasing the tax base. I think everyone wants housing affordability, but not next to them. They want it somewhere else built in town sometimes. And then the last thing I was going to say is that when I look at this, like I will say, I would like to think about this for one more council meeting for 2 weeks, just to be able to run everything through my head and make sure now that we've seen this replat and what your idea is for everything. Saying that, like, we have issues, I wouldn't even say issues. There's a lot of areas here that don't have alleys. An eighth of an acre here is selling for 30,000, which is, there's value to the land out here. And if I was you, like you said, I want to get the most value, the most money for the value, especially to get my investment back and everything else. Saying that, I live on a house that's, 50 feet by 100 feet. You could sell these lots off and they could be parceled out further, which I'm not against. I think density is a good thing. I just want to make sure that, the city has the information that they can plan and have flexibility that if this does get parceled out in smaller lots, there's going to be an alley for trash or anything else like that. Because we have that thing in Toronto Creek, which is not the city, but the fence actually goes right to the next guy's backyard. There's parts of the city where we can't put trash cans, they're out on the street, there's no alleys, things like that. I just want time to think about what this may look like.
This is only the first reading, so it will come back. Any other comments?
I do. I have a couple of comments. One, I look at this very simply as creating 10 half-acre lots. That's what you're talking about.
Correct.
You got 5 acres. You're going to divide it by 10, so they're half-acre lots. It remains R2. So the density for this particular street is exactly the same as the density for all the surrounding area. And in my mind, that makes good sense. And I think it resolves an issue of the 80 lots there, because we could come back with a whole bunch of people, kind of sorting their way through. I'm okay with waiting another time. It's process-wise, just so everyone understands, we have first readings for the purpose of being able to have a discussion amongst city council to make sure we're comfortable with what it looks like. Then there's a second reading that occurs, and at the second reading, and this is a question was raised by an individual, why weren't you notified ahead of time? At the second reading, there is a publication by the city that goes out in the paper that says, here's what city council is proposing to take action on. And that's why we have a public hearing. And earlier in the meeting, you heard a discussion about the public hearing on comments of a special use permit. We have to have a public hearing on any ordinance second reading. So that will be the next process that occurs. There'll be another bite at the apple for this discussion. This helped resolve a lot of my concerns because I was concerned about where this was going to go. It helps resolve a number of issues. I think having 10 half-acre lots is a win for the city. And hopefully proper owners will come in and go work it. I know there's density issues and everything else. In my mind, this is a lot better than having 80 lots on the same 10 acres. So that's my view. I'm supportive of.
City manager?
I do ask that there be a motion to amend the original motion. Unfortunately, the ordinance is correct. It does include all of the unimproved streets, but the language that was provided on the agenda is missing the last street, which is Morelos, M-O-R-E-L-O-S. That is also included in this cell.
So I would amend the motion to add that street.
I need a second for the amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion for the amendment?
Just to verify, that retains the 25-foot alley.
Yes, he's only asking for those little unimproved street sections.
Okay.
And that alley will be angled So we are losing some property on that. My assumption is that's probably 30 feet or something like that, because we're losing a small triangle on either side. So when you hit that street, you're gonna hit it and then you're gonna angle into Olive Street.
I believe so, based off of what I have in front of me.
Hmm. Okay. And then if this is the first reading, the second reading, it goes back to the first reading, there's large changes.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's currently being no changes proposed in the ordinance itself. We amended the motion because the way it was read originally did not include that additional street.
Yeah.
The ordinance does include it.
Does include it.
Has this parcel map, since it wasn't approved by you guys, been looked at by Jessica and them, or?
It was,
they sent
ori-
over?
yeah, it was originally sent to them. They're the ones who processed it and moved it forward to the city secretary. The city secretary, in doing an additional overview of it, realized that there was city-owned property within the property itself.
And I see the original parcels actually extend out into 16th Street. But that would be in the land. There's no clouds on this, on any of these parcel deeds or anything else, like what we dealt with right across the street. This is clean. And okay. I think that was all the questions I had.
Okay, I need a vote on the amendment.
Aye.
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 Okay, and now I need a vote on the original motion and as amended.
Aye.
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 All right, City Secretary, the first reading of ordinance 2024-11-01. An ordinance authorizing the vacation, abandonment, and sale of unimproved portions of the various streets has been approved unanimously by City Council as amended. Okay, moving on to, thank you so much.
Mayor, may I make
Yes.
just one comment?
Yes,
I presume you're gonna meet with all of your neighbors.
yes. Yeah,
I'm
not right
here.
now, but.
I'm here and I don't have a job. so-
Maybe during the next recess. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna move on to action item B before we do another recess. The action item B belongs to city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item B is to approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-01-01. Repealing Article 3 Water Conservation Plan and Article 4 Drought Contingency Plan of Chapter 66, Natural Resources to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, establishing an updated water conservation and drought contingency plan, establishing criteria for the initiation and termination of drought response stages, establishing restrictions on certain water uses, establishing penalties for the violation of the provisions for enforcement of these restrictions, establishing procedures for granting variances, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following clauses: cumulative penalty, savings, severability, proper notice of meeting, and effective date.
I need a motion.
Move as presented.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion, city manager.
So at the December 3rd meeting, and discussion item was provided to city council in regards to an update of our water conservation and drought plan. Chapter 66 within our ordinances actually have our current plan outlined within the ordinance. This is what is allowed for us to go in and determine, do we need to go to a drought contingency plan? Do we need to restrict how much watering that can be done? Over the past couple of summers, we have had to look at that, where we asked voluntarily for people to cut back. Our engineers in helping us with all of the number of projects we have going on with our water and wastewater utilities, found that our contingency plan was considerably outdated. And it did need to be updated to reflect more of our current practices and our current issues. Part of the update did include looking at how do we determine whether we need to make the decision to go to the conservation or the drought contingency plan, by looking at not only if we have equipment failure, but looking at the different pressures planes within the city of Alpine. Last summer and the summer before, you received those emails from me regarding the west side of Alpine that is on a different pressure plane from the west side of, or east side of Alpine. And it's hard because the way the ordinance was originally read, it was the city as a whole. But we do have to make some of those contingencies when we have the different pressure planes that are affected. that provides that additional update within here. It also meets all of the necessary compliances with the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality, which is TCEQ. They do have specific standards that we need to follow, so they made sure when they're looking at and updating our plan that it met those requirements as well. Some of the things that I did go back and ask, because we had some concerns coming from the council regarding our top users. After having a conversation and re-pulling data and kind of going back, we did determine that there was a change in the top users, which that information was provided to city council. That's information that goes to TCQ. The ordinance itself, it includes the plan for both conservation and the drought. The additional information that has been provided, and it is included within the packet, is what we provide to TCQ. I'm really appreciative of Jacob and Warren, because this item has been something to update since 2014. So there are various drafts that have been worked on in the past by different utility directors, different city managers, different Megan finance director. So it's nice that they came in and actually did an overhaul of the plan. There wasn't really any additional conversation coming from council on December 3rd. It does provide the differences in the two different plans. Specifically, of course, you're looking at the draft plan measurable conservation targets of being 11.4%. It does include in here about having a maintenance program for our meters, which is something we've talked about as far as priorities and looking at smart meters and those updates as well. We're asking for approval of this ordinance and it moved to the second reading, so that we can ensure that we get a copy to all of our funding agencies, Texas Water Development Board, TCEQ, and it's also the most current. So when we go out for future funding, that we're not behind one of the requirements.
Okay. Councilmember Martinez.
I have no questions. It was really well explained, so thank you for.
Councilmember Escobedo.
That's her right now.
Councilmember Stevens.
No, thanks for updating the high volume users, and I sent an email to Megan talking about, I was amazed that the city pool uses 10 million gallons of water a year, and it's a $660,000 pool. So we have a seepage in our pool.
We do.
Yeah. Now, in Megan's defense, looking at the cost for what it takes to fill up the pool, it's only $36,000. So the cost to fix the pool is going to be a whole lot more than $36,000. That's the economic decision she's playing with. But essentially, we're losing about 8.5 million gallons of water at the pool every year.
So we do have a saturation.
Yeah, so that's an understatement.
That is what we title it.
Yeah.
The pool wasn't designed to be filled and drained every year. Ideally in 2012-13, when they went in and fixed the pool, it wasn't probably done to the standards it needed to be done. But every year we drain it and refill it. It does have to resaturate. We do have some cracks that have to be addressed, which they do annually. My tenure, only one time I begged them to keep the pool full for the winter. Obviously it did not pan out as well as we had intended, because cleanup and the maintenance after when we were reopening was way more work because we don't have a cover for it. So we drained.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Nance.
So a couple questions, Megan. We have to have a drought contingency plan. Is that required by TCEQ?
Yeah.
And is it required for grants?
So depending on the type of grant we go after, they may ask that if we have met all of the requirements of the agency. So Texas Water Development Board, which is under the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, we have to meet TCEQ requirements to get TWD funding.
Gotcha. State grant. And then just a question out of curiosity, what has the Alpine water table done over the last 20 years? Do we know? It stayed the same, gone up, down?
I've had this conversation with Andy, but honestly, I cannot remember what we discussed. I know that it has been kind of a up and down curvage to it. It's slowly going down because obviously we've had drier, no rain.
Thank you.
Okay, and Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of thoughts. this is all based on how much storage capacity we have, not if it's raining or not, right? Yeah. And then can you run me through, obviously quickly as you can, stage 1, 2, 3, 4? What does that mean to a resident? What can they, what can't they do, I guess is the best way to put it.
So the city has to make the decision based on if we meet the criteria to go into an actual contingency drought plan. Give me 2 seconds to scroll down to it.
Trying to find that myself.
I don't want to read it off the top of my head. and be
Yeah,
incorrect.
no worries.
So stage 1 is what's considered a mild storage conditions. These are voluntary 10% reduction. So the past 2 summers, you've seen the messages come out to the public asking people to voluntarily not water your yard, to cut back on your usage, maybe not fill the kids' pool up for the summer. It's all voluntary. We just reduce and discontinue the flushing of main lines on the city. So it's not just the residents that we're asking for this, we're asking it also for the city and our properties as well, the parks. The first thing we cut is watering the parks, because it is a large source of water. So we reduce and continue the flushing of water lines. So we're not out there, we're not opening fire hydrants, we're not doing anything. We ask the residents kind of the same thing, cut back, don't water your yard as often. We also contact, and I've done this personally, I've contacted all the hotels, I've contacted our bigger users, we've contacted the school district, we contact Sol Ross, we've contacted Border Patrol, we've contacted the golf course, all asking them to reduce.
Yep.
Stage 1, just voluntary. So stage 2 is considered moderate. So this one requires all the requirements of stage 1. We have to educate, volunteer, please help us. And then we pretty much under the threat of penalty for violation, follow the restriction of use. So this one, and it's no different really than what we currently have in place. We've just never gotten to this level. So water restrictions, reducing man. So irrigation and landscaping pretty much comes to a stop. We change it to that they're only allowed to water on Sundays and Thursdays for even numbered addresses, Saturdays and Wednesdays for odd number.
And that's still using powered, that's not like hand watering or something.
That's hand watering if you're out there, but you can only water on specific dates. We request customers check for leaks, dripping faucets and running toilets. The washing of motor vehicles is prohibited unless conducted on a commercial car wash. I hear a lot of it, especially during the summer months with the car wash that's directly located across City Hall. Oh, but everyone waters and the water comes down and it's running through the street and the car wash wastes so much. They're not on city water. That car wash is actually on a well. And so they're not using city water. The use of water for washing sidewalks, driveways, and other paved or concrete areas is prohibited. Prime example, I know Sonic has done it on occasion where they go out there and they clean off their areas. That would be prohibited. Under stage 2, we would be able to find them. And then of course, the filling of pools, wading pools, jacuzzis is prohibited. All of this would be enforced through law enforcement and code enforcement. And then the last one is considered a severe water shortage, which we would need to look at for a reduction of 20% in our water demand. So basically all outdoor watering by handheld watering cans becomes even more restricted. You can only do it between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. Every other, like all the sprinkler systems, you're done, that we can't use them. They're prohibited. And then of course, at every stage, it's calling those entities, it's calling those organizations, it's calling those businesses and saying, look, can't do this anymore. And then it's having those emergency called city council meetings to say, okay, this is what's going on. How do we get through this? Are we bringing in an engineer company? What is causing this problem?
That helps out a lot, and I think people will appreciate that. I guess my only other question is going into our high volume water users. I see all those are public entities. Do we, you also mentioned hoteliers. Are there any other, I know there's no like mines around here. Big Ben Brewing's not here anymore. We got somebody that's using a ton of water besides the public entities? to your knowledge, and I know we don't want to necessarily just call somebody out, but I mean, it is a business, I guess, rather than a person.
Really no, because you talk about, I guess you go to the word like density.
Yeah.
So when you look at Sol Ross, the reason they're on that list is because their water meter feeds a whole slew of buildings.
Yeah.
So a lot of like our residential, it's one residence. Some of our commercial properties, it's just one commercial property. A lot of these bigger entities that are on this list is because they're using one meter to feed the whole property.
Sure.
The whole
Yeah.
entity.
Yeah. Okay. That all makes sense. And I guess, a comment here too, is just like how you're saying it's slowly going down. I think that's a new normal, I'm not gonna make any scientific assumptions or big words or anything, but we live in a desert and, again, not gonna point at anybody, but with huge half acre lots, we might want to do some, drought tolerant plants or xeriscaping stuff, things like that. But that's all I got. Thank you, man.
Okay, good. Are we ready to vote? Let's vote.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council unanimously approved the first reading of ordinance 2025-01-01. And with that, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Let me know.
Right.
All right, and we're back in session. That moves us to action item C, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item C is to approve the special use permit 2025-01-01. A special use permit application allowing the applicant Dollar General, store number 24666, to obtain a wine and malt beverage retailer dealers off-premise permit from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. The subject property is located at 1911 North State Highway 118. The property owner of record is LMDG Alpine LLC. The parcel ID of the subject property is 21863. The current zoning designation of the subject property is C2 Business District. If approved, the zoning will remain C2 Business District.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion, starting with city manager, please.
So this is going through our normal current process. We did try to present this before planning and zoning, but unfortunately they did not have a quorum. We are required to get this moved through the process within 30 days to meet the state requirements. So we automatically have brought it before council as part of our process.
Okay, great. All right, Councilmember Stevens.
Two questions. What's the school AISD view because it's within 1,000 feet of the high school? Do we have an answer on that?
I believe it's within 200 is the state law requirement.
I went through the state law. We can go through it, but I think it's an important question to ask the high school because students are going over there lunchtime.
What about the church?
Okay, hold on. All right, Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, so that was another question, and I looked at it was Texas code, 11933. So that was my only question.
Okay, Councilmember Nance.
I was gonna ask, because I believe Catherine Chambly is she's with an alcohol legal firm. So just to clarify on that, the 200 or the 1,000. Next to a K-12 institution, public education.
Catherine, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that area.
Hi, yes. So within 1,000 feet, we have to give notice to the school before applying to the state for the state permit. However, it is allowable over 300 feet. We have to give notice to them, to the school, in advance of applying to the state. Church, I believe is, we don't have to give notice to the church. I believe in this case, the church is 400 I can't remember exactly, 454, I believe, feet, door to door, in the case of the church.
So was notice given?
But prior to applying to the state, we will give notice. We wanted to obviously go through the city process first, just because if y'all don't allow it, then we can't go any further, if that makes sense.
Okay, I understand the sequence, yeah. So you are going to go to the state, to the school board?
Yes, sir. We absolutely have to. Yes, sir.
Okay, that answered my question.
Okay, Councilmember Stone.
Oh, man, be honest, that was our biggest council meeting, I think, ever that I've seen, just the place being built. It's a hard thing here because I want to keep precedent and say, they check boxes, they get the things and everything else and they're kosher, but we got local business here and plenty of places to buy beer till midnight. I'm not too keen on it. I'll even give another side to this though, as well, is that the first time I was probably one of the biggest vocal opponents against the store in general. Just like the Afghan pines that are everywhere, I've come to like it there a little bit. I look at it like it's a little gas station rather than a Dollar General, I guess, in my mind, trying to justify it. But that's all I can say on that right now.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo.
I was just wondering about the church and the school.
Okay, Councilmember Martinez.
No questions.
Okay, anything else from council?
Questions?
Counselor Stevens?
I guess the only other question I have, if the city approves and notice is given to the school, can the school say no?
I believe at that point, once notice is given, the school can protest through TABC. I believe that's the process. I personally never had a school protest before, so just to be honest, but they were provided notice and they can, I believe at that point, provide a protest to TABC for consideration.
So while the sequence is don't go to the school to notify unless the city says yes, then it's in protest mode as opposed to support mode. I'm inclined just to want to ask the school and almost postpone for 2 weeks. I get it on both sides from the business standpoint and all that. I just think we owe it in the small community we live in to close the loop with the school. Now, back to Megan, the 30 days. If we take no action, what happens?
So this was filed on the 18th. So 30 days would be, I believe, January 18th. I don't know, do the holidays make a difference?
Just 30 calendar.
So then I believe it's automatically approved.
Oh.
Is it correct, Gio?
Yeah, we're supposed to take action within 30 days of it being presented. I know that first time. I could look up the alcohol.
So
this was supposed to go before planning and zoning.
Yep.
On December 16th. We had a called meeting and they did not make quorum.
Yeah.
And so we have to move it forward because of the state time requirements. So it's coming before city council.
Or what they would have done.
So.
They may have asked the same question.
Yeah, well, one other question I'll ask them. What if we say no? Then what happens? I'm trying to understand process.
Well, we need a stronger alcohol ordinance for sure. Because we used to just approve it with just signing off. But obviously we wanted that mechanism to get it approved by the governing body to have some kind of like, transparency. I can't say for sure. I mean, I really think if you were to table it, I don't think it would become an issue unless somebody notified the state. And anyway, it would be just TABC probably. I'm not sure.
Could they get an extension?
Hmm?
They couldn't get an extension?
Cynthia, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
Oh, are you speaking to me? I'm sorry.
No, Cynthia, she's our legal counsel for the city of Alpine.
Oh, okay, great.
Hello, Mayor and Council. So I know the 30-day rule exists and I'm currently checking online because my concern here is that it may become an automatic approval by operation of law for failure to take an action on it. I know that the restrictions as to the requirements that a city can have, the distance requirement is 300 feet. And so if this school is not, or if this location is not within 300 feet, that is the maximum distance that a municipality can have on its distance regulations for alcohol licensing. And if y'all will give me just one moment, I will verify real quickly if it is an operation of law issue if we don't get it approved timely.
Megan, question, is this a renewal or the very first time it has?
This is a new.
They don't sell alcohol there.
And the other two Dollar Generals do have these.
Yes.
One
Yes.
does for sure. I don't, the
No,
one
they
by the
both
school,
do.
I don't, do they?
Yeah.
Won't do?
You also have to remember you have a gas station right across from the elementary school that also sells beer.
Oh. Okay.
Which was there long time ago.
Wild Wild West.
Yeah, thank you.
The
Good term.
yes, those were in the 70s or.
Sure.
I don't know, my view is to vote against, to support local businesses. That would be a reason.
I think there should be automatic approvals depending on the zone, but that runs into errors for us because we have spot zones. So that means you could have a bar in the middle of a commercial neighborhood
Which, I mean,
Unfortunately.
neighborhood bars that exist. But they're a local business.
So, you know, where I come down, it doesn't matter what we do. You know, it's gonna go through. I do think part of our responsibility from the city is to coordinate with the school district. We get these so infrequently, so it's not a dig on anything. It's just, I think we ought to go tell the school and they can decide if they want to protest or not.
And additionally, you know, the TABC certification that I provide, it says I certify that the sale of alcohol is not prohibited by charter or by ordinance, and it's not with our current ordinance. So that would pose a problem for us because I think it caused liability that they could sue us. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have the regulations in place.
Just like 2 years ago.
Okay.
So Mayor and Council, I have taken a quick spin through the TABC regulations. There's no indicator here that it is an automatic approval by operation of law. However, to speak to what Gio just mentioned, you know, if it does check all the boxes and there is not a legal reason for denial, and as in they are too close or they've not paid the fee or not properly submitted the application, the city's really not in a position to deny it. You know, if it has met all the legal requirements.
So can I amend the motion? The motion was made. I'd like to amend the motion that City of Alpine take the action to notify the Alpine ISD of our action so they can decide what course of action they want to take.
So that would be Geo.
Whoever, yes, that's fine. Yep.
Does that mean we'd be approving it then, or just?
Well, the motion right now is to approve it.
Yeah, so we're amending it that we're
To
gonna
approve.
notify AISD so that they can protest it if they
If
desire.
they choose, yeah, whatever they want
And then we'd be approving it with the notice.
with the notice.
Notice,
That's, yeah.
Okay, so that's our motion to amend. I need a second for that.
second
that. Okay, any discussion on that amendment? All right, let's vote.
Aye.
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 And the original motion as amended.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, the amendment to notify AISD passed unanimously by all council members.
I
The
voted nay.
original motion as amended was approved by 4 council members. Councilmember Martinez, Councilmember Nance, Councilmember Escobedo, Councilmember Stevens, and Councilmember Stowe voted nay.
Jumped up.
Okay, all right, moving on to action item D, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item D is to approve Go Rail's request for a letter of support pertaining to the possible available funding to the Texas Department of Transportation for railroad projects.
I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve Go Rails request for a letter of support, action item 12D.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion, city manager.
This item was actually presented to city council for discussion on December 3rd at the regular city council meeting. Go Rail had reached out to several of the council members. Excuse me. And request for support for an initiative that they're working with TxDOT for possible future funding for rural communities across Texas. Know that this does not mean that Alpine specifically is gonna get any of the funding. We may or may not. But in light of all the conversations we've had with our infrastructure, particularly the railroad bridge, and I'm sure that there are other cities that are having the same issues that we are having. I have added it to the agenda to show that the support and hoping that additional funds are provided to TxDOT to address these types of. And so council is aware the bridge that's on Flo Ross, that railroad bridge is TxDOT property.
Okay, Councilmember Nance,
No comments.
Councilmember Stone.
I think I brought this to y'all's attention a couple months ago. I'd appreciate the support on it. I think it's a good idea to work with a state partner in trying to show our support to get that railroad bridge some funding. And like, in lieu of also saying that transportation regulation, I know there's been another one passed around by the mayor and I'm looking forward to supporting that too. That's all I got.
Councilmember Stevens.
I'm frustrated as heck over this. at the December 3rd meeting, I took the action to call them. I not only called, I sent multiple emails. I never got a call back. I'm not going to support it. Not because it doesn't support. They have set themselves up so they don't want you talking to them. They only want you when you support their initiatives. And I find that offensive. I'd say it, but that's my view.
Councilmember Martinez,
No comments.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I'll support Stevens on that. That's just disrespectful.
Okay, let's vote.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, city secretary to approve Go Rail's request for a letter of support was denied. The motion failed with Councilmember Stevens, Councilmember Escobedo, and Councilmember Martinez voting against it. Councilmember Stone and Councilmember Nance voted in favor of it. All right, moving on to executive reports. 6 minutes on the clock. City mayor report, none this evening in the interest of time. And let me point out that the city manager report, since items are not listed independently, according to Texas Open Meetings Act, TOMA, we cannot have any discussion regarding any of the items that she mentions, nor any questions. Okay, city manager, 6 minutes, please.
The one item I just wanted to bring to council's attention, in light of that we are working all of the other main items, is that we have started construction at the wastewater treatment plant in regard to the drying bed and the clarifier. They surprisingly started January 1st. They mobilized and came out to Alpine. As of today, the crew working on the clarifier has finished sandblasting and loading up its equipment. The clarifier is completely gutted and sandblasted, ready for the next stages. The drying beds have been completely, the drains have completely been removed from the drying beds out of 4 and 6. And they're currently removing the media drains line out of 5 and 7. So what we thought wouldn't start until March, April, May timeframe has already started.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, moving on to council member comments. I just wanted to appreciate the residents who came out and who spoke. And we saw the process in action, and the resident who came out and spoke, and it was, as Councilmember Stone mentioned earlier, great to see them all shaking hands once it was understood exactly what was happening, and we weren't just listening to the rumor mill. So that was a wonderful, wonderful event to see. All right, 1 minute on the clock, Councilmember Stevens.
Terrific meeting. One of the things, cold weather this week.
Yeah.
If you know of someone who's elderly or has challenges, please check on them. We have 6 more days of below freezing weather at night, and tomorrow the high is going to be 30 degrees.
Do we have warming stations anywhere?
It would be our EOC.
Yeah. And I
Which
know
is where would they go?
That's the Emergency Operations Center. and
Right.
That is located on 2nd Street.
Okay,
And then on occasion, we do utilize the police department when needed.
okay, great, thank you.
That's all I got.
Good. Yes, yeah, finally, after all these years. All right, Councilmember Escobedo.
I'm glad we actually got that clarification on those lots, and it's good when people come in and voice their opinions. To me, that is very, very important.
Amen. Councilmember Nance. Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, I was happy to see that many people here, even though it was a misunderstanding, but it was nice to see people here. And I'm glad that it was clarified and it's a good thing for Alpine, so.
Councilmember Stone.
Yeah, that's piggybacking off of that, that's a great lesson for the city. I mean, to have more communication and to, literally have dialogue happening up on the podium right here. That was really good. I'd also be interested to see if we might write a letter to the legislature or TxDOT specifically about our 90 bridge in the future. So that might be in the pipeline here, but that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so this brings us to item number 15, executive session pursuant to chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. The city council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting for any posted agenda item or to receive advice from the attorney as permitted by law. Tonight, the city council will recess into executive session pursuant to chapter 551.0 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to consult with the attorney regarding pending legal items and possible sale and or acquisition of property for long-term overall city goals. May I have a motion?
So Mayor, may I ask a question first?
Sure.
Do we expect it's gonna go beyond 9 o'clock? If so, we probably want to extend before we go into executive.
Yeah, I have it written down time.
session. So
Do we need to extend now or during executive session?
can't do it during executive session.
Okay, so are we expecting this to go long? Do we have a lot of information?
I would do just.
Okay, all right, so I need a motion to extend.
So I'll make the motion to extend city council beyond 9 p.m. if required.
I need a second. Let's vote.
Aye.
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 City secretary only if required, and we are pretty sure it won't. We have voted to extend beyond 9 p.m. All right, now I need a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. City secretary, we voted unanimously to move into executive session at 8:31 p.m.
Okay, Councilor Martinez, you seconded that, right?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
8:31?
8:31 p.m.
Thank you.
All right, is the door locked and everything?
Right.
So.
And Okay,
All right, I need a motion to reconvene into open session.
Mayor, I move we reconvene into open session.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote on reconvening.
Aye.
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 City Secretary, council voted unanimously to reconvene into open session at 9:13 PM. Okay, I need a motion.
Mayor, I move that city council take no action from executive session.
I need a second.
And second.
Any discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
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 City Secretary, council voted to take no action from executive session, and with that, we are dismissed.
Fortunately, we are after 9 o'clock.
It's a good thing we voted.